unmuted now. So once we catch up to the delay, we should be live now. Yeah, good. All right. What's up, everyone? I mean, now I'm showing 4 people in the chat, so Peter counts as 1. Travis has spoken up. And yeah, so we are getting ready here to start. So it's funny, just even before we start the show proper for the YouTube side. So I got an email some point recently where it's like, oh, your video was removed for copyright. And it's like roundtable, whatever. And I'm like, what? And and the only thing I'd seen in the email was it said CBS something, and like somehow I was able to discern that it was like audiobook. I'm like, are they like tagging us because of the opening? I'm like, man, maybe we have to start running without the opening. But I went in and looked today because I kind of had lost track of it. And then so today when I switched over my YouTube to this, from my private one, I ended up looking and it was our book club, and I hadn't even posted it. It was just like, because I have like
it was like the hopper.
Like, it shows like unlisted stuff, and I have to convert that to public. Yeah. But even if it's unlisted, apparently they still will block it.
Wow.
But I had just forgotten to change the title. Apparently the whole time we streamed last time, it said Dark Tower Roundtable, whatever. But it did scare me because I'm like, they're fucking blocking our roundtables now? What the fuck? So I was like somewhat concerned we'd have to go without the intro, which would be weird. But no, all is settled. It was indeed the book club. Which again, there's still part of me that's like, why are you taking the time to go and block something that I haven't posted?
I guess I don't know.
That seemed weird to me. But yeah, that was a little bit of a start on the YouTube side. But let's go ahead and get going. We got roundtable number 75. I guess I can change the slide a little bit ahead of the intro starting.
Hey.
75, so that's a good round number. I always like round numbers.
3/4 of the way on the way to number roundtable 100.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and jump right into numero 75.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed.
Go then. There are other worlds than these.
Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begins.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter. Why'd you say it's so funny?
I almost ran out of breath there. I did not time my breathing properly. So that one, I was listening to a podcast recently where someone, they have a very similar intro to all their episodes. Mm-hmm. And the person was like, why don't we just record this as part of an intro to where you don't have to say it every time? And I was like, because with ours, I guess it's fairly similar, but I don't know why that had never even entered my mind where it's like, you have the intro. I guess you could just tack on the actual spoken intro. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, if you end up getting sick and your voice is whatever, suddenly there'd be a radical shift in your voice and stuff. So I'm like, I would never do it. But I was just like, when one of the hosts of the show I was listening to brought it up, and I was just like, oh my God, I never even thought about that.
Such a novel concept.
But yeah, of course we always gotta just do it live because matching voices and stuff, that'd be really odd for me as a listener if I was listening to something and the intro sounded one way and then suddenly once they started it was totally different. It's like when you go to a drive-through and you hear this voice that's all welcoming and tells you all this it was all warm and receptive, and then you realize it's a recording when the person's like, what do you want? After this there's
a fast food joint here in Utah that does that. is
There's
where
a bunch of them.
They record like the
welcome.
Yeah, like the welcome. Like hi, welcome to Wendy's. Would you like to try a Son of Baconator combo today? Oh no, thanks. Order when you're ready. Good. Jeez.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell was that? Yeah, exactly. That's what it would be like for the intro if we were to pre-record it.
See, this right here is a sample of what it would be like if Tad and Peter just recorded a podcast about bullshit, not about a specific subject. This is what would happen: is we'd be talking about fast food pre-recorded intros.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go ahead and start with the intros. I want to warn you guys about spoilers, especially I think I mentioned in the last episode or so that we had someone email that was in the middle of the series, and I had to respond to their email and say, don't listen to any roundtable episodes because, yeah, would hate for something tragic to happen.
Right.
And so we'll warn you about spoilers. If you haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to cry off this podcast. Stick with our book club episodes. In those, we stay where we're at in that episode or before. We never go forward. So, like, if we're right now, for instance, we're in the middle of book 2, we won't just randomly drop like a book 5 or 6 or 7 spoiler in the middle of one of the book club episodes. Whereas in this episode, who knows? I mean, even going through the intros here, we might spoil something. So you may want to hold off until you've finished that last word printed in book 7 of the 7th book, and
make sure to get all the way through.
Make sure to read all
the
of
way
it.
through. Not like me, all the way through. I knew there was a jab coming, so I figured I'd just get it out of the way myself.
And then next up, if you want to find us, you can find us on iTunes. You can also stream us on Stitcher. You can find us on any podcast service that's out there. I think I usually say if you find a new podcast service, because it seems like they're always sprouting up. If you find one and we're not on there, just let me know and I'll see what we can do about getting us on whatever service. Next up, you could subscribe, rate, and review us on any number of those services, iTunes being the most important. Definitely gets exposure to the show for people to rate and review on iTunes. You can also find our show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, including our intro questions is one of the things you can click on there if you're a new listener. We have kind of some questions that just basic questions that kind of built over the first, 6 months to a year of our show.
And
where we
they've
kind of
evolved too.
Yeah, and they have evolved. Where it just came to like where we come up with like questions to kind of gauge who everyone is as a Dark Tower fan. And so you can find those on there. You don't have to answer them all, but if you do want to answer them all, you can. If you want to pick and choose, you can do that too. But you can find those on there as well as the show notes. Everything that we mentioned in like this episode, for instance, will be on there. All the articles I cover, all the links, anything that we may mention will be thrown up on there to where you can check it out. So if you're listening through the normal podcast service and not like on YouTube, you can go like, hey, what was that picture they were talking about or whatever?
Yeah.
You can jump on there and find out what we were talking about. And then last up, if you are new, we want to let you know you are part now of our extended quartet. And as part of that, we want you to be part of the Palaver. And there's a number of ways to do that, and Peter can fill you in on those.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. We're also on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. We stream all of our shows on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. We usually stream Saturdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, which is where we're located. So, sorry, figure out what time zone that is if you're international. I'm not doing the math for that for you. And
that's what Google's made for.
Exactly. And so YouTube does let us keep up the roundtables, but the book clubs do get taken. We don't post them because of copyright, because of the audio clips that we use. But you can always go back and watch most back a ways, but not all of our roundtables were streamed on YouTube and recorded on YouTube.
Yeah,
we used to pre-record, and now we do it live. So
yeah,
but that's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Check it out.
Yeah, indeed. I have actually, every time we talk, like you mentioned that, I always think to myself, man, at some point before the next episode, I got to look up what number we were at when we started our live stream on YouTube.
It was right after right after our first live show. Remember, we did our first live show.
We did two live shows that were fairly distant, because we did it on a different service as well. And it was actually a friend of ours that mentioned, like, streaming on YouTube and like a program to use and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that's where I was suddenly just like, well, let's maybe start doing it. But so it was just like some random number. It wasn't like, I don't know. Yeah. It was just kind of out of the blue a little bit. But I don't remember where it was at, like roundtable. Because I mean, I usually gauge roundtables because there was almost an entire year that was almost all we did. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was somewhere in there for sure. But yeah, it's you won't find everything. But
Oh, one last thing about the YouTube. I always forget to say this. Hit like and ring the bell to get the notifications when we go live.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Everyone has to say that. That's like
Well,
required by YouTube law.
Honestly, like I honestly didn't realize what it actually like was for.
Yeah.
Like I never have really. I have a YouTube account. I've liked things before, but I've never really subscribed to anything until we started this, and I had to make my own so I could be differentiated from you in the chat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then my wife's like, because she helped me set up the account. She literally did it during one of our round tables.
Oh, okay.
I texted her and I was like, hey, sign me up for a YouTube account, do DTP Peter or something like that, and just do it. And she's like, okay. And she's like, you can subscribe so you get notifications whenever they go live, right? And I'm like, you can do that? Oh, okay. So I honestly had no idea like what it was for.
Yeah.
But now that I've looked into it a little bit, I'm like, oh yeah, we should tell people to do that so they know when we're live.
Yeah. And Travis just said that's how he's able to jump in so fast, and he gave us a smiley emoji there. So
no emojis.
I can't remember. There's something that came up about the Emoji Movie recently.
There's a sequel coming out.
No, I think it may have been like, was it the Honest Trailers or something that mentioned it over the last? Not that they did one about the Emoji Movie, but a joke was used about like, or there was something I was watching that used the like, it would be like if the Emoji Movie like, and then went off, and it just made me smile because I'm like, oh, I should show Peter this.
No, you should not.
Oh,
I hate that movie so much.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it here. We've got a number of things. I will say right off the bat, it definitely has slowed down a little bit on the Dark Tower side of like the series, I guess. So I guess I can just so you're not like waited with bated breath for like some big casting announcement. They've gone really silent. I was actually even just thinking last night, I was like, I wonder if like Comic-Con would be something where they would announce that like they picked up the show or whatever. But I haven't seen anything yet, and I don't know if Amazon, I don't know how big their presence is at Comic-Con necessarily, but it's just something that I'll just throw it out there that this is, don't worry, there's no like crazy stuff, but there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about, a lot of cool King stuff, some Dark Tower stuff, and we'll jump right into it here with a great article here from Bloody Disgusting with a very awesome picture. And the article is Gary Dauberman on the possibility of It spinoffs, and this is an interview with Bloody Disgusting. This is done by William Bibiani from Bloody Disgusting, June 24th, 2019. And yeah, that's the picture again. I usually take the picture of what they had on the article, so it wasn't my choice.
Yeah, sure.
To put that on there. I know you love it there, Peter.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah, pretty much.
I had to look again.
Yeah. So I actually think that this is interesting because before I even dive into it, because I feel like we've talked about this a little bit in the past at one point, maybe just kind of like talking off the cuff, but the fact that because of the way that Pennywise is, there would be a lot of potential for more than 2 movies. I think we've mentioned that on the show.
Oh, yeah.
So this is basically getting to that conversation.
Okay.
So Gary Dauberman is getting a lot of press this summer for his directorial debut, Annabelle Comes Home, the latest film in the ultra-successful Conjuring franchise, but it's not the only potential blockbuster he's worked on this year. He's also got sole screenwriting credit on the upcoming It Chapter 2, which concludes the story begun in 2017's adaptation of King's It. And I also mentioned that sole screenwriting credit is actually fairly unique. That's really unique, especially on a big project like this. Usually it's one of those things that like somebody will turn in a script and they did a majority of it, but then they'll bring in people for rewrites and do some stuff to just kind of massage the script. And I mean, how many movies do you go to, if you actually pay attention, do you see like 6 people's names on screenwriting?
Yeah, for sure.
So sole screenwriter on a follow-up to a $700 million box office smash hits.
One of the best horror movies of all time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's impressive. We actually covered Gary a few times on the show.
Yeah.
We had an article that kind of covered just how prolific he is right now with horror. Seems like if horror is on the docket, he's one of the first people.
Well,
a lot of people
and
King adaptations.
They
too.
mentioned it already that he's a part of the Conjuring universe.
Yeah,
which is highly successful. I mean, we got 2 Conjuring movies.
3 Annabelle movies
Three
now?
Annabelle movies? Or is it 2 Annabelle movies and the reference to her in The Conjuring 2?
I don't know.
I think that's where...
And then they're doing what's that freaky dude in the second one? The long, skinny legs. They're doing a spin-off of that, too.
Yeah,
and then The Nun.
And The Nun.
The Nun was done as well.
Yeah. So we got quite a few movies in that universe now as well. And it makes sense. It is, like you said, it's something that could very easily be expanded.
Yeah. So just even before we dive any further in here, what's your thoughts? I don't remember what we talked about before. Would you be open to that, or would you feel that's just milking it? Do you think that would water it down?
It all depends on. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I don't remember.
Last roundtable, I think we brought it up because there was a rumor going around about it.
Oh yeah, no, I thought we talked about this a while back.
But no, this was just recently that we talked about this. If I remember right, is we talked about like, what if they did one about maybe not necessarily a movie, but you could do like a series kind of on like the different events that Mike covers.
Yeah,
Kitchener Ironworks, the Black Spot.
Yeah, totally. But would you be open
massacre.
to it? I
don't know. I honestly, right now, I don't know. Depends on where they go. Do we stay in Derry? Are we going to be seeing familiar sights, sounds? Because for me, it kind of gets to the point where it's like, it is such a well-rounded book, and the movie was great. We both loved the movie. And I'm so excited for Chapter 2.
I need to watch it again pretty soon because we're getting closer to the new movie.
I actually did just watch it again, which led to me reading the book again, so it was really nice.
I don't think I probably watched it since the home video release, so back in 2017. So maybe
2018.
Maybe 2018 because it was late in the year. So, yeah, it's been a while since I watched it.
So for me, it's a matter of there was this podcast that I was listening to one time when they were talking about John Wick. The second John Wick when it was first announced, and it's like, are they really going to add something to it, or are they going to expand it unnecessarily? Because see, like there's shows that if you get one, you're so ready for more. It's kind of like how we felt, and a lot of our fans have felt about the Dark Tower.
Yeah,
give us an intro and then world build.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people were saying that the Dark Tower should do.
Yeah,
which is what hopefully the Amazon Prime show is going to do.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's what this gentleman's on this podcast that I was listening to was is there really much more that we can get into the John Wick universe? So my concern is with how we know how it turns out and everything. If we're covering Pennywise, if we're covering that creature in Derry during that time that it's active, the time that humans are around, are we going to get anything that's really going to add to it? Or is it just going to be something like you said, milking it?
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, ever since I heard that conversation, that was a couple years ago, obviously John Wick 2, it's kind of like, okay, I kind of see his point here. Is this going to give me something, or is this going to just, fill in? Are we building towards something here? Are we adding to the mythos and the legends and the everything there? So for me, it's a matter of, I'd have to know more details, but if it's just a matter of telling the stories in between from, before 1985 and 1958, because those two cycles we obviously covered very well.
Yeah.
In the book and in the movies, they're going to be covered. If we're just telling stuff before that, probably not. I don't know. But if there's something different, if there's another creature like that or something else, then probably.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you chuckling about?
Just... Oh, I made a reference to the movie The Room, that horrible movie.
Yeah.
I had to. Mark showed up in the chat. I said, "Oh, hi, Mark." I had to. I haven't even seen that whole movie. I've just watched like a lot of it on YouTube. I haven't exposed myself to the full movie, but I had to. Then we also have Anthony in the chat. He says, "Love the podcast, guys. Keep up the great work." Thank you, Anthony. Trying to remember, is Anthony new? I don't. Anthony, if you've been in the chat before, I apologize. I just not striking me as super familiar, but we all know my memory is that of a goldfish half the time. So
yeah, that's true. He forgets my name sometimes. So
even today, it's like, who the hell are you? As you walk,
as I walk in the door, it's like, shut up, Pat. Oh, right, it's Peter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've known you a while.
Going on 20 years.
Oh man. And then okay, so going on here, because I guess I could throw my opinion out too. I am kind of the same. I feel like I have a deep fear of it just being milking it.
Yeah.
In fact, I will even admit I have not engaged any of the spinoffs for The Conjuring.
Right, exactly what we're talking about.
Like for me, Annabelle, no, it just hasn't. It was cool for the scene it was in, but I just whatever. And maybe that's to my fault. Maybe I should watch that. The Nun, I would actually like to watch. I thought The Nun was really cool.
Yeah.
In the Conjuring itself, and the Rickety Man or whatever the hell it was called. Remember that little spinning light thing, and it had the guy like they're doing. I thought they were doing a spin-off of that too. Maybe I should watch them. I love horror movies, but there's just something about it where I'm just like, man, are you really going to extend every little aspect of this out? But so with it, And I think, let's see, Travis here says, I would love a period piece for maybe the 17 or 1800s featuring Pennywise, or maybe a film delving into the prim and the deeper mythology. I think like a period piece is maybe one where there's like part of me that is intrigued by that. Like it'd be really cool to see like, you know, like the
lumberman one,
like the, what is it? Like the beaver trap or the beaver area, like when it's like the colonial period,
it's
right?
logging.
You know, and it just like stuff like that, like would be interesting. And I almost feel like you could almost play it in a way where it's like, is it Yorktown? What was that first colony that disappeared? Not Yorktown. That's not right.
Johnstown. No, it starts with an R. I always think it's Johnstown, but that's
Roanoke.
Roanoke.
Yeah.
Johnstown is the one that survives and everything, but Roanoke is the one
where
that
everyone just disappeared. And
and there's like a symbol carved into.
Can you imagine playing it like that in a way to where like you just literally just do like, I almost feel like The Witch was a really cool period piece horror movie. Like do something like that, but it is Pennywise. It is in Derry. It is what will become Derry in the future. And then make it where it ends in a way to where you almost feel like Roanoke colony that completely just disappeared and no one was left. Like I think that'd be interesting.
As long as they do it right, where actually no one is left. Like if Pennywise does take all of them, yes. But if you leave it to where like one person survives and he limps away into the wilderness and hopefully he survives, it's like no. That's the thing. It's like there's nothing. Like don't. That's what I'm saying.
And I almost think
you're not changing the mythology. You got to leave it, kind of thing.
Well, I almost picture like the native population would have maybe engaged Pennywise at some point, and because of that, given a wide berth, so that perhaps Pennywise has been starved for a certain period before the white men show up. So that it is just a more of a frenzy
massacre,
maybe than we're used to with Pennywise. Like you could do it for the film's sake where it is slower, but it eventually culminates with he eats everyone because he literally hasn't eaten maybe for 100 years or something like that.
Which would be pretty freaking epic for a horror movie to do something like that. Because I mean, let's be perfectly honest. One of the telltale signs of a horror movie is how many survivors are we going to have?
Yeah.
It's very rare where you get, like the subtle hints of like The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the very classic movie, that, oh my God, no one's going to survive. That's rare in horror movies.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of interesting to see a setup kind of like that, like what you're talking about, where it's like, okay, I've been starved for centuries. I'm awake now. Oh, look, there's people here. I'm literally just going to gorge myself.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, who knows the mechanics of Pennywise, like how much food is necessary to survive. I don't know if it'd be like on the ropes in terms of like maybe to the point maybe that's even part of the storyline of starvation, where it's like emaciated, where like it doesn't have the power early on, but as it feeds it gets more powerful to the point where it's buffet
unstoppable and then it's unstoppable at that point. And it literally comes down to like them killing themselves and getting eaten afterwards, or getting eaten while trying to fight. Who knows?
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like it's a matter of, is it going to add or is it going to subtract?
Yeah.
Because that's for me is like, that's where I worry about that. It's like Roanoke, like fascinating story, fascinating legend and everything like that. Because it's real. It's something that really happened. So Derry in it is kind of playing off of that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a matter of, I mean, Mike brings it up in it and covers it and says like, the only thing that was ever found was one house was burned down. Maybe the stove just got too hot. We don't know. Maybe it was Indians. But if it was Indians, why isn't there X, Y, and Z? If it was disease, where's the bodies? Everything like that kind of leaves it to where it's a mystery. There are no answers. For me, the problem is that I don't see that working in film. I don't see how you can end a movie like that and have it turn out to where audiences leave going, wow, that was good. Too many people leave too many times in movies that end in ways like that, where it's like, just give me a solid answer. Don't leave it open.
No, and the thing is, I think because they would watch the whole thing, right? They would see this colony destroyed. I say the best way to end it is the people that discover Derry, and like they're rolling in, like the people
the ones that find the village afterwards,
that establish the town, like basically like kind of almost a macabre ending where it's like, you give some element of like some connective tissue to like, hey, this is eventually going to be the town that you are familiar with from Pennywise.
The thing
from it, I
the
guess.
thing that worries me about doing a period piece like the 17 and 1800s, because obviously we didn't have clowns back then. Jesters maybe, but that that's in the slide here, guys. The orange nose, the makeup, and everything.
But
like
he's
that.
got a very antiquated costume, though. I remember mentioning that when we first got our first picture
It's antiquated, but it's 1800s. It's not not lumbermen discovering America, but pre Revolutionary War period.
Yeah.
So what is he gonna be if he's not Pennywise?
Yeah.
So that's where, for me, it's like, if we're gonna do it, we're probably gonna be looking at something like the Black Spot, build up a prequel kind of thing with Mike Hanlon's dad or something like that. And for me, that just doesn't entice me.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yes, I want more of this.
Yeah.
If I had anything for spin-off, what I'd be looking for more from a King work, mainly because I just finished it literally today. I finished it. What happens with Flag at the end of the stand? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is more of an open-ended question. I mean, we got an answer to him, to Pennywise. So it's like, if you're going to build something, you're either going to have to do A, a different place with a different creature, or B,
which I don't think is interesting to me at all.
Yeah, right. Why would I care about that?
Yeah, not that there's not other ones. I'm not interested in hearing those stories really.
Like, the way that it's built in it, because I literally just finished the stand today, like I said, and then literally before the stand, I read it. Listen. For those of you that don't know, I'm an Audible guy, so listen to it. So for me, it's like he's one of a kind. He gets here by some freak accident. E.T. Alfie kind of Alf or Alfie. I always get it mixed up. Alf kind of freak accident, ends up on Earth kind of thing, and then is just stuck here and has to make the best of a situation. I'm using air quotes here. Best of a situation. Not like Tad, who's a monster and would go hog wild if he got put onto a planet and had that kind of power. But that's the thing for me is like another creature. No, that their home world, their stuff, and everything like that. No, I don't give a shit.
None of that.
I don't want to know anything about that, because that's the thing is like what Travis says here about the Prim. Yeah, that'd be fascinating for me as a Dark Tower fan. But that's not where Pennywise came from. Yeah, he came from an alternate dimension. Like they saw that in the vision in the book. So it's a matter of like, what are they going to do with it that has me like, I don't know, maybe the article gives us more, does it? Yeah,
we'll go on here. But also Travis says The Witch is a masterpiece, and I definitely agree. Highly recommend that one. Mark says, I wonder if anyone actually fought Pennywise in the past, like or a la the Loser Club, but lost. And I almost feel like you could even do something like that where there is kind of a last stand, you know what I mean, of the people that are standing against it, but then let it end in a darker way to where they don't win. Like Pennywise destroys them, Yeah. And then Travis says, I bet there has been a group that tried, like Tim Curry says, you'll die if you try. Yeah, and I certainly would guess that, like, once people caught on to what it was. And the thing is, it would be interesting, is with people in that time period, would they be more prone to believing in something like that?
Oh, hell yeah.
So it's
superstitious, don't walk under a ladder, pinch of salt, spit through your fingers, all that kind of stuff is their bread and butter. I mean, for God's sakes, if we're talking early colonial America, we're talking Protestants, aren't we?
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been Protestants. Coming over.
People non-Catholic basically are coming over to get away from religious persecution, right?
Yeah.
So we got all kinds of stuff there. Not to mention which would be really kind of cool. I got to admit, I would really kind of like what you said, tying in the Native American aspect of it. Of them like, no, that's a cursed place. Because I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the things with Pet Sematary that fascinates me.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, see,
I know
that one.
I know I'm kind of taking a little bit from like Pet Sematary with that, but at the same time, wouldn't it be the same thing though?
No, exactly.
At some point, wouldn't a tribe be there, maybe get wiped out, and like it's like spreads the point where it's like, don't go fucking near that place, and the natives are smart enough to go, nope, we're not going. Like
fuck that.
Yeah, screw you guys. And the white people are just like, oh fuck it, we could take anything. And like,
we're white.
Maybe even the beginning have them hear like warnings. Would be interesting too, like the settlers. You know what I mean? Like have them hear like, no, this isn't a good place.
What it'd be the classic scene of them coming up to set up their very first, like hut and everything like that, and they have an Indian guide, and he's just like, nope, right here, this is my line. You guys can go on, but right here, that's as far as I go. Why is that? It's death over there. Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, we'll do it ourselves. So let's go ahead and take further. I just wanted to get that before we kind of got Gary's answers on some of these questions, because I don't remember where you stood on it. In general. So it goes on here, says, but does it have to conclude there? Oh, because it mentioned, I think I cut that part out, but they mentioned that Chapter 2 is coming up here in September.
Yeah.
It says, but does it have to conclude there? Gary Dauberman is best known for his work on spin-offs like the 3 Annabelle movies, The Nun, which expanded upon the Conjuring universe by revealing unseen chapters and expanding upon nightmares only hinted at in previous films. Bloody Disgusting asked Dauberman about the possibilities of keeping the It franchise alive in a recent interview. Surely Warner Brothers would be interested in returning this popular, acclaimed, financially successful world again, right? And you know what's funny to me, just on that note, is remember they weren't going to greenlight Chapter 2 until
They saw the reception for 1.
yeah, like the dumb bastards, man. And like the whole time, like, and the thing is the reason I would say this is like because I'm sure I have it on old podcasts where I was saying like this is fucking gold. This movie is going to make a fucking shit ton of money, and you people are fucking because it was even
after the trailer popped, and the trailer became the most watched trailer of all time.
But I'm even saying before that because remember at first like they were even like kind of like trepidatious about even doing Chapter 1, and then it was like
well, yeah, because we had the fight with the old director about it being R-rated and PG-13 and everything like that, and then we got the guy who did Chapter 1. And he's like, no, we're doing it R-rated. Like, forget this. Like, this is what it needs to be. And look, I will show you that it will sell.
And I think it took Deadpool doing well R-rated for them to
Logan,
be for them to be like, okay, cool, we'll give it a try. But then even then, they're like, well, we're not sure if we're going to give you Chapter 2, so we'll see what happens. And I just remember just like screaming to myself like, dude, are these people fucking stupid? This movie's going to be massive. And I'm sure I said that on the podcast a number of times. So it's just funny that here now it's being said that like how much Warner Brothers would love this to go on and on because
for sure
it is a financial moneymaker. And I mean, $700 million for an R-rated horror movie that's huge.
Is it the highest horror film of all time? Like I asked this earlier and you said it probably is up there, but I really think it is, isn't it?
It might be a horror movie, because I was about to say the only thing that's holding me off is R-rated. It probably isn't the champion, but for horror movies, it might very well be. I'm
going to look it up for you real fast while you go on.
Because, like, ultimately, if you're talking $700 million, you're talking movies that are up near $1 billion, and I don't know that any horror movies are in that stratosphere. I mean, that's rare company. I want to say that overall, movies that have got into that realm are like like less than like 30, something like that, if memory serves. So it goes on here, and this is actually a quote. It says, quote, I'm sure there's interest, but I got to say, Gary Dauberman said, we want to be respectful to the material of the book. I don't think anybody over there, in fact, I know there's no one over there going, hey, let's definitely do this, and we could tell a story of what happened at the beaver trapping camp or whatever. So that's the end of that quote. So like he basically what he's saying is that he wants to be respectful of the book, and he knows that right now at least there's nobody at Warner Brothers talking about a spin-off of any kind. And then it goes on. Dauberman is referring to the extensive history of Pennywise the Clown, which goes back to at least as far as colonial America, where the town of Derry, Maine started out as a camp for trappers. Then it goes on here with a quote. Quote, while you could tell that story and I think it would be cool, I don't think that's what people are doing currently, if that makes sense. So again, I think that he's not being clear is I think what he's saying is like, I think he's just trying to make it clear to these guys, like Warner Brothers is not working on this right now. There's no screenwriters working on this right now. Like they may be interested, but they're not like openly interested to the point where they're talking to me about it or anything like that. And he says, you know what I mean? So before we go on, did you find...
Yeah, it is the 4th highest R-rated film of all time, $327 million. And then...
Wait, what?
Yeah, 327... Wait, 100,000... Yeah, $327 million. What it says, lifetime gross.
I'm pretty sure it's made like $700 million.
Because it says the highest grossing R-rated film of all time is The Passion of the Christ at $370 million. This is on Box Office Mojo. All-time box office is what it says.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was...
I wonder if that's just domestic. Let me check its page.
Yeah, I think that sounds more right than it might be domestic.
Yeah, it's domestic. That's what it is. Worldwide, $700 million. You're right about that. So,
okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have... number 1 horror R-rated film. It does say on its actual page.
Okay.
So it is the highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see in the chat here. Let's see. Travis says it is the highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time. Okay, so he gave us the answer there. I think you might be right. Mark says, I think you may be right. I think I read The Exorcist beats it if you take inflation, which, yeah, that's probably true. When you calculate for inflation, suddenly all the records kind of aren't breakable anymore.
Yeah.
I would even question if it's even The Exorcist or if it's Halloween. I know Halloween for the longest time is one of the highest grossing independent films of all time, and I believe that was finally beat in 1999, 20 years ago, by the Blair Witch Project.
Son of a bitch, dude. It is the 64th highest grossing all-time domestic movie of all time. Just U.S. only, 64th. That's actually pretty damn good for a horror movie.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Then it goes on here with another quote. It says, "So yes, to answer your question, I think there's room to build on the mythology of it because it has been around from the beginning of time, but I don't know if there's any plans for it," Doberman added. "I was just very happy to tackle the book." And then next up here, this is a quoting more, says Stephen King himself has expanded upon his creations before in stories like The Dark Tower, but it seems that there's no plans to go beyond the original story from it. So get ready because the upcoming It Chapter 2 hitting theaters September 6, 2019 will be the end. And then the next line says, "For now."
Yeah, I get it. And for me,
because if this one brought in $700 million as well, you got to believe there's someone at Warner Brothers that's going to, we can't let this fucking stop. You know what I mean?
We got to cash this in.
Yeah,
Well, here's the thing. I would wish that someone at Warner Brothers would listen to this and understand this. You don't have to stop with it. It ties into a larger universe. Fucking get that and start that up. All right?
Yeah, but
that's what Conjuring is doing right.
Everything with Stephen King's tied up though with different people. Like
it's true. It's true, but there is more out there that they could do that is related to it and similar to it with Stephen King. I mean, for God's sakes, there is so much out there that is ready for people to be like, okay, it's the people who made it, and they're actually going to be, honoring the source material instead of changing it and making it, Hollywood. Great, sign me up. I'll tell you right now, like, I'd be there if they made a Carrie remake. If they did. The people who made it made a Carrie remake and made it proper, fuck yeah, I'd be there.
I just don't know if Carrie's ever going to get topped. The original.
The original was so good, though.
Yeah, it's like, I just think there's a couple of those. I think Christine's the same way. I wouldn't want to see that redone just because Carpenter did the original.
Really good.
So it's like, how do you beat a Carpenter flick? Carrie was De Palma, right? Was it Brian De Palma that did Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right.
Again, a fucking brilliant filmmaker. So
yeah.
I just, like, I'm not saying that, like, I don't know. And I just think there's something special about some of those early ones. Same with, like, Misery. There's a good part of me that would probably never want to see Misery remade because Kathy Bates is, like, brilliant. And then, like, that movie was just so well done that, like, what are you going to top? Like, what could you do better?
It's true. It's
true. Like, maybe, like, go truer to the book and make, like, the book hobbling, but like, is that really worth doing?
She cut a foot off.
With hobbling, it's chopping off.
Yeah,
inches.
A limb.
Like she takes them off at the ankle, but then I think at some point she moves further up. I don't know. It's an axe though. It's not a sledgehammer.
In the movie, she breaks his foot with a sled.
Yeah, which is still pretty brutal.
It almost would. It's one of those things where it's like, here, let me break your foot with a sledgehammer, or let me just cut it off. It's like, am I going to survive both? Yes. Just take it off.
Yeah, because I mean,
sometimes it's worse.
Yeah,
because
if it gets broken bad enough and isn't given the opportunity to heal, you're going to get it amputated anyway.
Right.
So yeah, that's true.
And all I'm thinking of here is, like I said, I just finished The Stand literally today. All I'm thinking of is like Stu's broken leg. It's like, okay, we're gonna re-break it and set it, but it's gonna pain you for the rest of your life. And it's like, but I could have just taken it off and then just had like a prosthetic leg or a prosthetic foot, like,
at least back in those days prosthetics kind of sucked versus now. Like nowadays a prosthetic would be,
nowadays I could get one that has like flexing toes and like a monkey hand. I could be like a fucking cyborg or something.
Oh man. And then let's see, Travis here says it apparently originated in a void containing and surrounding the universe, a place referred to in the novel as the Macroverse, a concept similar to the later established Todash Darkness. I think like there's a lot of cool stuff with it for sure, but like I just don't know that like if there was anything to expand upon it, I would want it to be Derry personally and just stay with this creature. I don't want to see like other ones, other times, other places, other like or not. When I say times, I mean outside of Derry. I don't want to just see like, oh, here's 200 years in the future in fucking Siberia, this town that another one lives. Like I don't want to see that. Like there's just, I don't know, that feels really like milking it to me.
Let me pitch an its sequel idea to you. What if Ben missed an egg?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think there is I think that's
the one possibility that if they're going to do something to expand on it, that's what I would want to see. I would want to see an adolescent it growing, learning, trying to become, maybe get a cameo from one or two of the losers realizing what's happening.
Okay, here's the thing though.
Yeah.
Do we trust the filmmakers without having the underpinning of King's novel?
No.
Because that's really what it comes down to, right? Like because at a certain point, you're basically creating a whole new horror movie that is just using aspects of King's novel.
Sure.
And like, I mean, I look at like Game of Thrones, for instance. There's a stark difference between a stark difference between the end of the series that had no book underpinning and the early series that had the book underpinning. There's just they're different shows
for sure.
And I just wonder that like with the King stuff, I just don't know if I would trust like.
So here's the confession, and this is the reason I thought of this, is that every time I read it or listen to it, every single time I'm like, the end scene is always going to be that pan. I picture this in my head. I picture the pan down where you pan through the earth, and you know, like you're at the surface, you hit the ground, you can kind of see underground for a little bit, then it goes dark, and then all of a sudden you see like this faint green light, just pulsing, and it zooms in, and it kind of reminds me of like the egg in Aliens, you know, like face hugger egg that's just pulsing, and then it cracks, and, you know, and a new it is born. That's what I picture, is something like that, because they talk about it in the books that those eggs were about ready to hatch. So if Ben misses one, who, let's be perfectly honest here, he was going by matchlight to find all of the eggs. If he misses one.
Yeah.
Because they don't go back and check. I mean, the one thing that I will say is that King wraps it up nicely by having this entire city basically destroyed. Like, you know, the entire part of downtown sinks, you know, and everything like that. But if there's one egg, and one egg survives, we get a new it. And then 27 years from then, you get a new cycle.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, at that point, the losers are 50s.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you also now, because the new one, if you continue on the timeline of what the new one has done, that means you're pushing into the future, and I'm just not into that at all. Like, I don't like when things do that. Like Parks and Rec did that in the last season where they went in the future, and that was like they were technically going in the future of what was reality. Mm-hmm. And I never like that because, like, I don't know, it just never works out.
So what you're saying is you don't like Endgame. Oh, no, 5 years in the future.
That weirded me out a little bit because it's like, okay, so what's changed? Like, I always think that kind of stuff. I don't know. When it comes to like whatever. Now, if they had stuck with the original timeline of the 50s and the 80s, like, okay, cool. Now you could jump and do the next cycle in modern day, like that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's a good discussion though. Mark says he would love to see a remake of Christine. I mean, what with the self-driving cars now. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's the reality.
A little too on the nose.
No, and I'm not saying that like I would be completely poo-pooing a remake. I'm just saying that I would be very apprehensive. Same as I was with Carrie in 2013. I wasn't like heavily thinking that was going to like top what we had seen back in the 70s, and it didn't. I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it still was like second fiddle to like the original to me. And I just feel like with Carpenter being one of the most, in my opinion, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers and probably one of the most special filmmakers, I feel like anything that Carpenter does just feels different than anyone else out there. I don't think any other, even horror filmmaker has come close to things like Halloween, The Thing, Christine the Fog. Like the stuff that he does, there's just something very different about. And I love that difference. And I just wonder if like you would lose that like uniqueness that Carpenter brings by having another filmmaker come in and do like a modern day thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not completely down. And also, would you do a period piece or do you move it up into the modern day?
That was going to be my question for you, because I just realized I had one from my statement earlier about WB. Dude, go out there and snag some other King works and make it instead of trying to expand this universe.
Yeah. And
Firestarter.
I don't know
Firestarter.
But again, everything's owned though. Literally, like
it's true.
King writes a short story or a fucking poem, and studio's picking it up. Like,
didn't he sell one of his to a bunch of kids for like $1.
Yeah, he does the
something.
Dollar Babies thing for
Yeah.
like film students, but like those are like his way off the beaten path things. But like, I mean, the Institute, I believe, did we talk about that? Has it already been sold? I wonder if that already has the film rights
I wonder if it
sold,
is.
You know, like he pre-sells sometimes before the book's even published, which isn't unique. I mean, Michael Crichton pre-sold Jurassic Park before the novel was published. Spielberg owned the movie rights to it, so it's just one of those things that like for Warner Brothers. But what I'd be curious about, what else do they own in their pantheon? Do they own other King works? Because they might, and that would be interesting to see. Travis says, I hope they make The Talisman, but a Christine remake could work too. I saw the new Pet Cemetery, and I wanted to like it, but I had some problems with it. Yeah, and I mean, I enjoyed the new Pet Cemetery, but yeah, there were some issues I had with it compared to the novel. I am wanting to throw the original on and watch that, and then watch the new one again, back to back.
Oh yeah,
And kind of compare them, because it's been a long time since I watched the original. But yeah, it's just the thing is, I wonder sometimes with these remakes is, are they doing them just to open up a new generation that may not be as willing to go watch a 1970s Christine or Carrie, or you know what I mean, or 1980s movie,
Firestarter,
you know,
yeah, like that.
Yeah, I maybe, but like I don't know.
It's like we've had this conversation before, is that there are certain elements of King's universe that would not work in the modern era. Like we talked about, like one of them, Dark Tower wise, is Eddie. Eddie with the smuggling would not work modern era. Like, let's be realistic.
Yeah,
there's no way that you're just going to be able to sneak 2 bags of coke taped to your person. I mean, I don't know if you
not post 9/11.
I don't know if you saw this, but the guy that tried to sneak drugs under his toupee in Spain.
Yeah,
God in heaven.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, Ray Charles could have saw that guy sneaking drugs.
Yeah. Then Mark says, I tried to like Pet Cemetery as well, but just couldn't. Not because it's bad. I just love the book too much. And yeah, there's always that too. That being a little bit different in the books because the different medium. Travis says, yeah, the remake isn't a bad movie, just unnecessary. Lithgow was good, but no one beats Herman Munster as Judd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I enjoyed Pet Cemetery for what it was, but there was some stuff like that was missing from the book that I think enriches the story so deeply. I feel like Judd and Lewis's relationship was completely omitted out of the new movie. Like, I don't think there was even a friendly relationship they really established in that movie.
They honestly felt a little like hostile towards each other.
Yeah, it was just like strange to me because that was such a big part of everything. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. And this one is a list, best movie adaptations of Stephen King books ranked.
Did they really use the picture of Stephen King?
They did.
Well, of course they did.
For the header thing here. This is from Hugh Scott from Cinema Blend on June 25th, 2019. Yes, that is a good one. Good picture there. It says Stephen King is one of the most prolific, well-known, and best storytellers of a generation or multiple generations. Over his now 50-plus year career, Hollywood has been cranking out movie adaptations for his books almost as fast as he could write them. Most recently, a second movie adaptation of his book Pet Sematary was released earlier this year. We've also seen another book adaptation made for a second time with 2017's It. Though this is a second go at Pet Sematary, neither the first from 1989 neither this one nor the one from 1989 did 100% justice to a very scary book they are based on, but at least the first one was responsible for the awesome song from the Ramones. It, on the other hand, is a masterpiece of adaptation, and despite Tim Curry's excellent performance in the 1990 miniseries, there is no question the big screen movie adaptation is superior. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
You agree?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Tim Curry is a god among men. Especially his Pennywise is amazing.
Yeah.
But the effects weren't there. The story was censored basically for TV. And whenever you take something like It and censor it, it's kind of like if you took Rambo and put it on TV. It's like,
yeah.
all right, this
Yeah.
is like a 30-minute movie now because you took out all the blood and gore and violence. So
it's like
great.
it's like the Mad TV thing. Do you remember the Mad TV skit on The Sopranos being aired on like PAX?
Yeah.
It's like PAX, so it's broadcast, so it's edited for whatever, and it's like they show it. It's like the whole hour episode comes down to like 13 minutes or 3 minutes. I think it's like three minutes and something seconds, and like
because they censor out every single sexual reference, swear word, violence. It's literally them going spaghetti, lasagna, cannolis.
Yeah, and then like you mother, and then it cuts. And
yep. That's all I remember from my time watching The Sopranos. It actually came up on my time hop recently.
Yeah.
Was freaking Ted lent me the first 2 seasons of The Sopranos. All I know is that I want more Italian food because everything looks delicious.
Yeah, indeed. And then Travis says, if it's part of your coverage, ignore it. But this question, but have you seen the new Creep Show trailer? I actually haven't, and I actually missed that for the episode
shit,
here.
there's a Creep Show trailer?
Yeah, I think
I didn't even know they were remaking it. No. Are we getting the monkey again? No.
I haven't seen the trailer, so I don't. But it isn't part of this, so we'll have to do that on the next episode. But
are we gonna watch it after we finish?
I mean, we can, yeah. It will just not be part of the episode here, and we could definitely talk about it in the next episode, though. Let's see. Let me go on here. It says an astonishing 45 novels, novellas, or short stories by Stephen King have been made into feature films.
Holy shit, 45?
And that does not include 3 more that are set for release later this year. It Chapter 2, Dr. Sleep, and In the Tall Grass coming to Netflix. It also does not include another couple dozen plus projects that have been made to TV shows or TV miniseries. So just 45.
The Stand, it doesn't count.
I mean, there's been a ton of them. I mean, Salem's Lot was a mini.
Rose Red.
There's been so many. So 45 just movies. Just legitimate 2-hour movies. So I found that interesting. If nothing else, if there was any debate about me covering this list for this, like some of that tail of the tape stuff was like, I want to cover it at least to talk about this. But I think the list is fun too.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and dive into it. And for each one, just give me your reaction in terms of like surprise it's on the list, too high, too low, that kind of stuff, right?
All right.
So at number 10, The Running Man.
That shouldn't even be on here. Are you kidding? That's not even like close to what the actual book was.
I don't think it's about close to it. It's just
how good the movie is.
Just like good. Yeah. Let me see. What did he say? The best movie adaptations of King. So I don't think. Yeah, I think it's like best in terms of. I guess that's one of those weird like word things. So best results that you got, not necessarily like the closest adaptation to whatever. So
it's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's not.
He says The Running Man is the kind of movie that is never going to win any awards. It's not going to change the world or launch new eras of filmmaking. Yeah. It's just a really, really fun movie. The Running Man is a great watch for a lot of reasons. For one, it has great supporting actors, such as the host of the original Family Feud, Richard Dawson, WWE Hall of Famer Jesse Ventura, and all-time football superstar Jim Brown, not to mention 2 awesome cameos from musicians Mick Fleetwood and Dweezil Zappa. And then he says the main reason The Running Man is so fun, though, is that it comes from a creative mind of Stephen King and is based on the book of the same title written under a pseudonym Richard Bachman. The movie changes quite a bit, but it keeps the same basic idea of a man surviving a gauntlet of killers to win money and his freedom. It's one of the most fun adaptations of any King work. So,
all right.
All
right.
Yeah, I mean, I see where he's coming from. I'm with you, though. I was kind of surprised to see it on here, but yeah, it's.
I mean, if we're talking King adaptations,
there's a lot, yeah.
I mean, 45 to be exact.
Yeah. Now, maybe the challenge to this is to come up with our own top 10 for a future episode.
I'd have to watch all 45. I haven't seen them all.
I'm sure there's 10 you've seen that are like, this is on my list, though, right?
I have seen Running Man, though. My dad used to love it.
Yeah, I watched it just like growing up in like the 90s, like watching Arnold movies was pretty much a national pastime.
All I remember is the opera guy. That's all I remember from it's been years since I've seen it, but I remember the opera guy.
As my collection grows for movies, like I'm always like challenged by like, where do I go like in terms of collection? Like, and I think I've come to the point where I want to like specialize, like, let me make sure I have every Martin Scorsese movie or every, Stanley Kubrick movie. Yeah. And Arnold is one that I've thought about doing, just like, because I have a lot of his movies. I have a lot of his movies, but like, there's a bunch I don't have. I don't have this one. There's some I don't have. So like, I've thought like maybe I'll just build a list of like movies he's been in and just be like, let me buy them. Do
you even have Commando?
No, I think I was going to buy it, but I think a Blu-ray was on the horizon, so I held off, and I still haven't bought the Blu-ray. So that's a good one though. Yeah. Okay.
Let's off some steam.
And then Travis says you guys should make your own top 10. So,
I'm down.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm down with that.
Again, fully accepting that I haven't seen them all, because I don't think I've seen everything. But I think I could easily make a top 10 of what I think are like,
I think I could.
The best. Cause like, I feel like the cream rises to the top, and those are generally the ones you turn around and watch.
Right.
But I feel like I've at least seen 25 to 30 of them, which I think is enough to make a judgment and do a top 10.
Stephen King movies. Have I seen 10 Stephen King movies?
Okay, so next up, number 9, The Dead Zone, 1983.
I've heard how good this is. I've never actually seen it.
I actually just watched a video on this because it was basically showing that like there's the political character in this that's very reminiscent of a current American political figure. I'm not going to get into it too heavy, but it was a funny video because it was actually stark, like how like 40 years ago King wrote a book that was very similar to certain things that are going on. So let me start at what it says, what he said here. Director David Cronenberg, which I have to stop and say, I don't know that I've seen this one. The second I saw that name, I think I'm making this top of my list of things I want to go and find because he's a genius. Stephen Cronenberg's adaptation of King's novel, The Dead Zone, was one of the first times a King novel was ever adapted. Which I think that's about. I mean, of course, it's not the first. We know Carrie was in the late 70s, but in the early 80s, there could have been 1980 was The Shining, so I think maybe that's stretching it a tiny bit. But it starts Christopher Walken as a regular guy who finds himself with the ability to see people's past and presents simply by touching them after he awakens from a years-long coma after a car accident. David Cronenberg is a master of directing weird, scary, and suspenseful stories, and teaming up with Stephen King was a wonderful combination of the two first-rate talents. Casting the weird and wonderful Christopher Walken as a protagonist, John Smith, was another stroke of genius. The Dead Zone isn't the best-known King work, but it's definitely one of the best. So, yeah, I'll definitely...
Okay, I need help then. This isn't the one I thought it was.
No?
There's a book, I swear it's by Stephen King. Maybe it's not by Stephen King, where it's a airplane that like slips reality or something. Does that ring a bell to you?
Not necessarily. Not on the top of my mind. No. So that's definitely one I want to watch though, and maybe I'll maybe I will have watched it before we actually make our lists.
And that's a novel by Stephen King, is it?
Yeah, I think that's
I may actually have to check out that novel. That sounds really interesting.
Novel. Yeah, indeed. So next up,
Langoliers. Thank you, Travis. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, I think I don't own that one. I think at one point I owned like a box set with like a bunch of King things in it, and it had it in there. I think I got it for the stand, but I think I got rid of it when I got the stand.
Like those.
No, I hate collection
hate
things like that.
Yeah,
like I was even at Best Buy had the Mel Brooks collection, and I've held off buying any of his movies because I was like wanted to buy a box set. But when it came down to it, and I was holding it in my hands, I'm like, look at all these movies. They all have different names.
You put it up in your box sets section.
No, there's still part of me that's like, I gotta buy them one at a time. Like,
God damn it, Ted.
I couldn't do it because I'm like, these are like, it's okay. Like, if it's like Die Hard, fine, because they're all called Die Hard. Like,
God, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize you changed the slide. I just saw that fucker up there.
So I could put it there. But like when it's like Mel Brooks and it's like all these movies, different names, it's kind of like that King thing. It's like, I can't just put it under Stephen King, for God's sake. There's like 10 movies in there with different names. That's my neuroses there. So number 8 is Children of the Corn, which I love that it startled you there. I'm losing track of the chat too. I don't know if you're keeping track.
Oh yeah, Steve says The Langoliers is a short story, actually a novella. You're right, Steve. You're absolutely right about that. I was meaning The Dead Zone. I got to check that one out for sure. And then Mark says COTC above Dead Zone. Come on. COTC.
Yeah, Children of the Corn. Yeah. Let me see what he says here. I'm not fully into his list. I will say, as one that's seen the whole thing, there's one, and I think the chat's already mentioned it, that isn't in here and kind of bothers me. Peter's choking now.
Are you serious?
Well, okay. Well,
there's a bunch that have been said in the chat, so I'm just like, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I'm going to be pissed.
All right, let's go on here. Children of the Corn is one of the scariest movies from the 80s. It was released in the midst of the slasher film craze of the 80s amongst huge horror franchises like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. But Children of the Corn isn't like those. It's way freakier and way scarier. Like a lot of King's best stories, this one's super creepy. It's about a cult of religious kids that murder all the adults in a small town and led by terrifying Malachi, played by Courtney Gaines, as they terrify a couple on a road trip that happened into town and crash into an already dead boy, forcing them to stop in the middle of the cornfield. Children of the Corn is King at the weird and scary, at his weird and scary best.
Who's the chick in the movie? Is it?
Oh, dude, the problem is they've remade this and they've done fucking unrelated sequels so much to the point where like it's like I don't even know. I would honestly guess there's probably half a dozen movies now, so I don't remember.
It was someone. It was someone really good. I want to say that it was. Oh shit! I just spaced on her name.
It's been
Sarah Connor.
Linda Hamilton.
Was it Linda Hamilton?
Maybe that sounds familiar, but Yeah, I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've seen the original. In fact, there was actually one point that like me and a group of friends like 6 or 7 years ago.
It is Linda Hamilton.
We were getting together to watch Children of the Corn, and the person that brought it actually brought one of the fucking remakes or sequels or something.
God.
And I was like
Nope.
pissed. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You promised me Children of the Corn, and we're watching like it was like some 90s like whatever. It was terrible. It was horrible." And then the writer here goes on and says, like a lot of Stephen King's best stories. Oh no, I already read that. Okay, so Children of the Corn, 1984, the original, probably the only one that's actually decent. The rest, avoid them like the plague. Yeah. So next up, number 7.
Shut the fuck up. 7th?
The Green Mile.
7th?
That surprised me as well.
Bullshit.
Oh yeah, that did surprise me as well, indeed. He goes on and says, director Frank Darabont has collaborated with Stephen King 3 times with The Green Mile, starring Tom Hanks and Michael Clark Duncan in his breakout performance, being the second of those movies. The first one we'll get to in a little bit. The Green Mile is less of a horror and more of a pure supernatural story based on the death row inmate played by Michael Clark Duncan, who has magical healing powers and goes on to form a bond with the prison guards. Tom Hanks, after curing Tom Hanks's character's bladder infection. The Green Mile is a morality tale filled with twists and surprises, and one of the best examples of King's versatility as a storyteller, and that he is not always about horror. Which, yeah, this is always one of those ones you could pull out of the card out of your deck and go, King's not a horror, not only horror. Like he does all kinds of things. Green Mile, there's one for you.
Fucking hell, not top 5. Like me, I'd be upset if you didn't put a top 3, but I understand if you can make a case for several other movies that could go top 3. But 7th? You're saying that this guy thinks there's 6 movies better than this from the King universe? Come on. Come on, man.
Oh, man. Let's see. Well, yeah, so there's some questions in the chat about the author here. Now, I will say as well, some people do this kind of stuff to just get clicks and attention by making things more controversial.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everyone has their opinions too, right? It's subjective, so people can have their opinions. Number 6 is Carrie, 1976.
Okay.
Carrie is all about horror, however. It is one terrifying film and the first time a King novel is adapted into a movie, which wasn't it only a year or two after the book came out? Like it was
fast.
For King, it was a quick turn from like first novel, and it was like, huge.
Did it help his career?
Oh yeah,
having a film like that.
Yeah,
because it wasn't a film that was small. I mean, they made a good movie.
Yeah,
out
it was big, and I'm sure that certainly helped get the awareness for his name out there. But yeah, it's a quick turnaround. I think it's 74 is the book. Yeah, so you're talking a 2-year turnaround, which it takes a couple years to make a movie usually.
Yeah.
So it's like you're talking they pretty much grabbed that from the second he published it, and they made
76 was published in 75.
It was published in 75?
Yeah. Carrie, 76. No, it was published in...
I thought it was 74, but I don't...
Was it 74?
I don't have the list in front of me, so
okay.
I don't know, but it's a very, very quick turnaround, though. And it says...
Chris, if you haven't seen the movie, watch this version of it, not the 2013.
Yeah, this one I like this one better. And again, okay, so this actually is directed by the great Brian De Palma, so I was right
earlier. You were right about that.
And starring Sissy Spacek as the titular character, a high school teenager with terrifying telekinetic abilities who goes on a rampage after finally hitting her breaking point from being bullied by her classmates, teachers, and family. Sissy Spacek's performance is amazing and completely frightening. The story, like all of Best King, is disturbing and uncomfortable. In the beginning, you're rooting for Carrie, but by the end, you're horrified and appalled, although perhaps a little sympathetic. It is honestly a work of genius. And yeah, it's been a while since I watched the original. I think I actually watched it in 2013, prepping for the new movie.
The remake?
Yeah, but it is a great one for sure. So now we're moving into top 5 realm.
I don't like that look that you gave me, Tad.
Peter's feathers are already ruffled, which brings me great joy. By the
asshole. Hashtag Tad is terrible. Jesus Christ.
Next up, number 5.
Shut the fuck up. 5th?
It. Are you what? Are you?
That's top 3, easy. Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, It. Like, are you serious?
All right.
Come on.
Stephen King's novel It, first published in 1986, has been long a fan favorite work. It was made into a miniseries in 1990 with Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown, and it was really just all right, I think, though people praised Curry. In fact, Curry's performance is good, but the Also, but the rest of it felt much like a made-for-TV special of the day, which I think that's
basically what I said earlier.
And I think for me, like, it's not even necessarily like I even think for me The Stand is the same. It's the way they film them. Like they were filmed in a way that they look television.
They feel like they feel like they're Hallmark movies, is what they feel.
Yeah, because like I feel like TV usually, especially in that era, things were like lit very well. Like there wasn't a lot of darkness and shadow. Like things were just lit really well, and it was shot in a certain way. And I feel like, if nothing else, those fingerprints are on both of those miniseries, and it just makes you it feel less special.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if they would have just had it in their mind to like do more interesting thing with lighting and just shoot it at like 24 frames per second instead of like the 30 that you do for TV, it would have looked better.
Well, also at let's be perfectly honest, The Stand and its TV series, they both felt like TV shows.
Yeah,
they were on sets. Like you could totally feel the sets. Versus stuff that came in at the same time frame as them, 90s. So we're looking Schindler's List, Terminator 2, Jurassic Park. Those were movies, Forrest Gump, stuff like that around that same time frame and everything like that. I mean, hell, even Running Man that was earlier in this list felt like a movie. Yeah. It didn't feel like it was. I took myself out of the theater, my front room really, because I didn't see it in theaters, but out of my front room and went to that place with Arnold kind of thing. I never did that in The Stand or in the It miniseries because it didn't feel like those places. It felt like it was a TV show. Yeah, exactly. And I think that nowadays, like obviously television is a lot different, and television looks like you can't tell the difference between a TV and movies nowadays, in my opinion. Like the way they're shot, the way they look, the way they're acted. It's the same, maybe better. Whereas back in the day, like there was a discernible difference between TV and movies, both looks and a lot of times even the talent that you got. It was like there was TV people, right? It was like the early 2000s, like really like The Sopranos made me feel like that was a big shift where it's like, okay, we're going to go take, a 2-part movie and put it into a series. Yeah. And make that. And then it's like, oh shit, this works? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then everyone starts doing it.
Yeah. A lot of people point to The Sopranos. I think the only precursor to that a lot of people forget is Glenn Mazzara's work, as a matter of fact, The Shield. It came out a little bit before that. Right. That one was like right in the realm, but like it definitely had the darker, grittier feel to it as well. But yeah, it's definitely, I could see where he's coming from with like, it does feel like a made-for-TV special for sure in a lot of ways. With Tim Curry being the big thing that I think really holds it apart from that. I feel like if it wasn't for Tim Curry, if the role would have gone to a lesser person, I don't think that today this new one would have made $700 million. No. I don't think it would have as much following. I don't think you'd have merchandise out there with Pennywise. I just don't think it would have as big of appeal. I feel like Tim Curry really helped elevate the entire thing and make it something that people are still terrified by clowns because of, right? Yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely Tim is huge. But he goes on here, says, however, 2017's feature film is every bit a big budget film that is that it is spectacularly honed and was an enormous hit in the fall of 2017 when the film was released. The critical response was just as good, and as it received glowing reviews from critics and fans alike. I personally feel like Bill Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise even outshines the great Tim Curry's performance. That's a bold statement.
Damn.
That's a bold statement. Now, I can't dismiss it out of hand, though. I will say Bill did a really good fucking job.
Bill was fantastic.
And I think the filmmakers, writing and directing and costume design, everything else, did enough to help differentiate him from Tim's, that he wasn't under the realm of people having to compare him to Tim.
No.
Because I think that was the thing as I was worried about as we were heading into this movie being made, was I was like, God, I feel sorry for this guy, because like, how the hell do you step into those shoes that people are going to constantly compare you to Tim Curry? And I feel like they did everything they could to like different costume. Sure. He had different mannerisms. Just there's so much different about it that it's like, it's easy to just go, okay, cool. No, this is awesome. This is Pennywise. Like it's awesome. And he says, there's nothing about it that isn't classic Stephen King, is his last line there for it. So now we're moving further into the top 5 here. Number 4, Shawshank Redemption.
Shut the hell up. Number 1's going to be like freaking Cujo or some shit like that, isn't it?
The Langoliers.
The Langoliers.
Okay. Shawshank Redemption is this. Now he gets this incorrect. The Shawshank Redemption is the second fruitful experiment. Second fruitful collaboration between King and the director Frank Darabont. That's incorrect. It's actually the first. Second is the Green Mile, and then third is The Mist.
Yeah, because Green Mile came out in 97, didn't it?
Yeah.
So 94, 97, then 2002? For the Mist, or was
7.
2000? Was it really that
7.
far back?
Yeah, 2007.
Damn.
But it was.
And that's the one that gets left off the list, isn't it? The fucking Mist. Are you kidding me?
He says Frank Darabont, but it has been, but it had not been a hit when it was released in '94. It's hard to believe that. It's hard to believe that, because after years of heavy rotation on cable TV, it's hard to find anyone in the country who didn't grow up watching it a dozen times. It's become an indelible part of American zeitgeist, and for good reason. It's a really, really great movie starring a really, really great cast based on a really, really good story. The Shawshank Redemption is based on King's novella Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, and tells the story of two unlikely friends form a bond while incarcerated for murder in a Maine prison. Shawshank is one of the most amazing examples of King's stories that has no ghosts or ghouls or evil spirits or rampaging murders. It has none of that, although again it's very spectacularly example of King's versatility, which definitely
for sure. Exhibit B, Your Honor, of King's not just a horror novel.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say Exhibit A. This is probably the first one I go to.
Probably, yeah.
Now, I will say there's one thing that I don't remember who it was, but there was one time I was watching a comedian, and they're talking about the Shawshank Redemption, and they're like, God, that's on cable so much. He's like, I bet you TNT was at the bottom right-hand side when it was in theaters. Cracked me up, and I cannot remember who said it, but it just cracks me up, because it's true. Like, who has not watched that on cable a million times? Like,
shit.
Okay, so now the ones ahead here, which we'll get into. Let's see, and then it is number 3, The Shining.
I really thought that was going to be number 1 for him.
Okay, yeah,
that would have been an understandable number 1.
Yeah. Stephen King hates it. The movie fans love it. Director Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is without question one of the most polarizing adaptations of King's stories. King seems to go out of his way to take cheap shots of the film, and Kubrick certainly changed the story quite a bit, but it's also one fantastic movie, which I think is a good way to synopsize it.
It's exactly what we've said.
I see why King has issues with it, but there's no way I can get fully in support of Mr. King, because it is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Like,
easy.
For me, it is like top 3 horror movies probably.
For
it's
sure.
up there. If maybe 5 for sure. 3.
It's like
possibly.
I said. It's like I said earlier. Top 5 for sure. Top 3 for me. That's what I would say with The Shining as well. It's like, when you're talking horror movies, man, it's going to be hard pressed for anyone who's even a casual horror fan.
Yeah.
My wife's a casual horror fan. She's excited about the Halloween announcement that we'll get 2 new Halloween movies.
Yeah.
And everything, and that's spread to her. We watched The Shining because she had never seen it.
Yeah.
Not being a Stephen King fan, it's something that she never thought that she would want to see, because it was advertised as a Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, yeah, I was never a fan of Stephen King. And I'm like, he did The Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile, right? Kind of like what's going on in the chat right now. They're talking about how people didn't realize The Shawshank Redemption was a Stephen King.
Yeah.
So same thing with her when we watched those. And I was like, yeah, The Shining is Stephen King. And she's like, okay, well, we got to watch it sometime. We watched it, and she's like, my God, that's just terrifying. I was like, yeah, it's nothing like the book. She's like, you serious? I was like, yeah. I don't know if the book's worse. Because there's some things in the book that they leave out that, like,
the hedge animals,
fucking terrifying.
That gets me every single time. Like, I get freaking like chills. And I don't get like physical reactions a lot when I'm reading. Like that. Like, not that I don't react to books, but like they don't. Yeah. They usually there's a very stark difference with books and like movies to me. Movies, I get chills. I get like every reaction under the sun. But books, not really that much. But those hedge animals, the way those couple scenes are written,
the description of the lion, like being ready to pounce, like it was about to, like it was almost ready to like extend, like it was starting to come up when he turned around. So that if he had stayed his back to it, just like 2 seconds longer, it probably would have already been in the air.
Yeah,
that terrifies me.
Yeah. And then isn't it because it's the one with Jack where he like, because he doesn't even realize, like he thinks that maybe it's closer, but he isn't sure until it crosses the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Like
he's like, no, it's for sure across the sidewalk, and that's where he sees it like crouching like a cat,
getting ready to pounce.
Like it's getting ready to pounce. Like if he had stayed, like I said, turned around for just a couple more seconds, it's in the air.
Yeah. Steve was asking about who this is from. Let me scroll up. It is Hugh Scott from Cinema Blend is the list that we're looking at here. And let's see what he says here. It says the story is about inner and outer demons of a struggling writer hired to be a caretaker of an isolated mountain hotel that is closed for the winter. It is terrifying, both in the page of King's original novel as well as the screen with Kubrick's movie. They're both masterpieces of their genre, even if Stephen King doesn't like it, and it's still an amazing movie worth seeing. Yeah, I would that's an understatement.
For sure.
Like it's one that like I just think it's like 101. Like if you were came to me and said, Tad, I've never seen a movie before. I need to see like 20 movies, and I was going to parse that out with like a couple from each genre. Chances are The Shining's going to be on there. Like,
For sure.
Like it's just great. It's brilliant filmmaking.
And it holds up too. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Next up, Misery, 1990.
Good movie. Not.
And see, to me, I'm in the realm of like, I think this movie's untouchable, man. I don't ever want to see this one remade. Even it made me nervous at the Castle Rock thing that they were talking about, that she's going to be in it and stuff. Because I'm just like, don't touch this fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
Like this movie is like, I don't know that I would rank it as high as this and over some of the ones that it was over, but I could see why you would. It is a really good movie. Let's see his description here. It says James Caan was one of the biggest stars of Misery when it was released, but Kathy Bates absolutely steals the show as the psychotic Annie Wilkes, a superfan of novelist Paul Sheldon, who happens to rescue him after a car crash in a remote part of Colorado and helps to nurse him back to health for a little while. Kathy Bates' performance, for which she won an Oscar, which is very notable, is astoundingly scary. Her Annie Wilkes is one of the best movie villains of all time, and Hobbling scene is one of the scariest and most nauseating scenes ever. It is certainly unforgettable, as is the rest of the movie, as Caan's character tries to escape and time after time has his attempts thwarted by the completely insane Annie Wilkes. You can't help but wonder what kind of misery Stephen King, as an author himself, just put himself through to come up with this terrifying story. Yeah, to think about that, indeed. I could see where he's coming from for sure. But yeah, it's and yeah, I know that Castle Rock's not necessarily doing the like Misery. I'm just saying that she's involved. It's like, it takes place before, and I think somebody mentions that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones that for me, I think that it might be like untouchable in my mind. If they were gonna remake it, I'd say no, don't do that.
Chris is making a bold prediction what number 1 is.
Oh yeah.
He says it's gonna be the Dark Tower.
And then we got Panzerpox. As I was woken up to the notification, seeing Kathy Bates holding a sledgehammer first thing in the morning is truly scary. Yeah, I to this day don't trust her.
No.
Like when I see her, she shows up in The Office or she shows up in The Stand miniseries, as a matter of fact. No matter what she shows up in, I'm just like, I keep a very leery eye towards her. I'm like, I don't trust you. Which speaks totally to the credit of her as an actor, that she still has that impact, right? It's kind of like Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Like if I met Anthony Hopkins and he was going to cook me dinner and we're like hanging out,
nope.
I don't know if I'm eating any meat on that plate.
I'm ordering a pizza.
I think I'll eat the veggies. But yeah, it's the same with her. So now let's go ahead and drum roll it to number 1. You like brace yourself. Stand By Me, 1986.
Okay.
If you need further proof that King is as much more than a horror story, more than horror stories, look no further than Stand By Me. It's not scary or freaky or anything else, but that mostly he's known, like most else he's known for. It is a really good, simple coming of age story about 4 friends who go on a hike to see a dead body of a child about their age who was hit by a train, but had not been found yet. It is directed by the great Rob Reiner. And is based on the story called The Body, with an all-star cast of adolescents and young actors led by River Phoenix, Will Wheaton. That also includes Corey Feldman and Jerry O'Connell, and Kiefer Sutherland, with John Cusack in flashback scenes as Will Wheaton's deceased brother. Everything about Stand By Me is perfect. There are no jump scares or violent attacks. It's a wonderful, timeless, bittersweet story about growing up. It's not what anyone would expect from Stephen King, especially when it was released in 1986. But it is still the best adaptation of one of the stories, even 30 plus years later. And I could see where he's coming from on that. I do want to do this now for us, just do the list. We don't have to have explanations. I mean, we'll probably discuss it anyway. I think we should definitely do our own top 10s and just kind of go with it with King adaptation. And again, let's define it as. I guess we should define it as, do we want to talk about movies in terms of like it's a good adaptation because it's true to the source material, or just as a good movie? Because I feel like that's 2 very different lists.
It is very different.
So we should probably define that before we go. And we can even throw it out to the listeners, too. If you guys want to join in on this before the next episode, send in an email with your guys' top 10.
We doing this next episode? We calling it?
Yeah, I think next episode gives us plenty of time. And I just want to call. Let's just do it the same as this list. Just go by great movies.
Great movies.
Because like The Shining, because ultimately like The Shining is going to fall off if you go great adaptation. Like it's good to the source material of King's work. The Shining falls off. Like I would rather just go. Let's just great movies that's taken from King's work.
Okay.
So, next time we'll cover it, and we'll basically change it up and do it to where we're not going to do emails in the normal sense. Then with anyone that's brought it in, I'll read the stuff as we go through with our lists. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So we'll cover kind of
make a spreadsheet and say, here's the 6 people who emailed us. Here's their top 10 list.
Yeah, we'll hit number 10.
We said this. Chris said this.
Yeah.
Travis said this, and everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next up is, let me scroll down here. 5 reasons why the Dark Tower series will be the next next fantasy big thing. This is by Jade Stone from Fiction Talk on July 3rd, 2019. And I thought this is a pretty cool little
Can
thing.
I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Why did they always draw Roland with a crow?
I guess there is a crow down there, isn't there?
Like, go back and look at some of the artwork, especially for the books. There's always a fucking crow. What?
Why do they animate him with a hat?
He has a hat in some scenes, all right?
I just want to throw that out
We've
there.
We've been over this.
to
Roland's hat watch has confirmed he's had a hat.
I know. It's just funny to me.
So.
Yeah, I don't know about the crow though. That's an interesting one. Chris says crow is David. I mean,
that's a hawk.
Yeah, it's
not a crow.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just one of those things. I don't know. I actually didn't even notice it there, to be honest with you, until you mentioned that.
Well, I was looking at the pant leg, the right pant leg. I was trying to figure out what's going on there.
Oh, like his duster.
Yeah.
It's like wrapping around his leg.
Oh, is that what that's his coat?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it now.
It's kind of wind is taking it and kind of wrapping it around his leg.
I was trying to figure out what that was. I was like, is he like going through like to another world and it's like shifting?
Now, Chris has said what I was thinking. Maybe Zoltan?
Oh. Beans, magical fruit.
Because Zoltan is eternal. We all know that.
It's true.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into this here. It says the Game of Thrones series has defined a decade for the 2010s. It was impossible to miss. Game of Thrones is the equivalent of Facebook. If you didn't watch it, you would feel strangely excluded because all of your friends were watching it, talking about it, dissecting it in detail. Similarly, Dark Tower promises to captivate an audience for the next decade. Just as everyone was watching Game of Thrones during 2010s, the Dark Tower will most likely be a go-to TV show for the 2020s. I like this person's attitude here, because I think if it's done well, and I think that we have every indication that we have good people behind this, I think it very well could be. The costs of a large screen adaptation for a saga the size of the Dark Tower would have been impossible to control in order to generate the desired outcome. A movie also needs an immediate guarantee of financial success, while conversely risking yield minimal dividends to the producers. The Dark Tower TV series, unlike the movie, will not rely solely on numbers of viewers that have seen the pilot episode. I mean, there's a little bit less on the line with TV than there is with movies when it comes to like finances. Is one point that he's making. And this is before he gets into his list here. Some of the reasons why the Dark Tower is much better off than the movie are, and then this is where he starts his list, fidelity to the original story. We've all seen the Dark Tower movie. For most of the Dark Tower book fans, it turned out as a major disappointment, which I like because he's actually leaving room there for people that enjoyed the movie. One of the most cited reasons was for the lack of cohesion of the plot and the divergence from the original story of the book. The movie picked mixtures of scenes from several books and volumes, which is rather confusing for fans. It's easy to see why a TV series is a much more adequate for the saga the size of the Dark Tower. Like many of Stephen King's books, it spreads out through a copious number of pages. This makes it difficult to convey the story in a shortened version. Meanwhile, TV series will actually allow the story to unfold properly. Which we've definitely talked about that. Also, the TV medium seems to be less dependent on franchise, allowing for plot to come from new ideas instead of just falling into the same old pattern of recreated remakes and sequels of the previous successful movies based on their box office success, which is true. Maybe that's why TV is doing so much better now than movies, because there's actually risks being taken in television, unlike movies where it's like everything's got to be something before, right? It has to be based on something. Like how much original stuff is coming out, really? There really isn't.
No, for sure.
Next up, sci-fi fantasy combo. This is a short one. It says the Dark Tower TV series combines two of the most beloved genres in movie and television, fantasy and sci-fi. This would satisfy a diverse group of fans as it develops into a complex story. Which, yeah, definitely true. I never really thought that much about it, but yeah, I guess that is like a very good genre that for history of TV. I mean, I'm actually currently doing a watch of the original Twilight Zone, and
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much right in that same realm, fantasy sci-fi. And that goes back to like this is late 1950s,
50s,
yeah, late 1950s. Because I looked it up because there's a few where there's like nuclear paranoia and stuff, and I'm just like you can kind of see like the reality of the world coming through the show. So I looked it up. I'm like 1950. I'm like, good lord, like that's yeah, that's like man, that's a long time ago in terms of like. Because, I mean, I don't know. It tripped me out a little bit because, like, even how long did it take people to actually understand nuclear stuff? Because they kept a lot of that secret for, like, 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So next up, chronological development. Judging by the cast, the Dark Tower series is meant to start with the 5th volume of the saga, which is incorrect, obviously.
Fourth.
The Wizard in Glass is 4th. This seems to concentrate the effort to build the TV series in chronological order, which would help the viewers to understand the actual development of the series, including viewers who have not read the books. Moreover, starting with the young Roland story, we have a sort of background explanation for the personality traits displayed by Roland throughout his life. And yeah, I think that that's a good point because I feel like it might make it easier to understand and get with Roland as some things happen later on to understand this story. Just like I feel like for us as book readers, I think after you read book 4, you kind of go back and look at the first 3 books differently than you may have reading them the first time.
Same, especially it also goes in with lines with what we've talked about before. What did we look at second time through, third time through the series, and knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
Going through and reading it again.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, long-term storytelling. The Dark Tower is a monumental saga with a tremendous richness of detail, which are impossible to convey in a 3-hour movie due to the obvious time constraints. Some of the details in the books take days, weeks, or years to grow. Intricacies of the story have more profound impact on the memory of fans. Some of the best marketing in the movie industry can fail when compared to the word of mouth that is generated by a beloved TV series. You will soon have cohorts of friends and work colleagues inciting each other to watch the Dark Tower TV series, discussing the last season's details in a way that no movie could spark, which is totally true.
Yeah.
I was actually just recently like kind of looking into things where it was just like I read an article where somebody's talking about how like, okay, well, yeah, this movie costs $200-300 million, but a lot of people don't realize that that's production. But then the studio usually spends another $100 million on marketing the movie.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, there's part of me that's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and then in some cases it's smaller movies. It's a movie that's $80 million to make, but then they used $100 million to do the publicity on it. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding? Like, that's insane. So yeah, to avoid that would be awesome. The TV series writing quality has also been on the rise during the last decade. Some of the actors which have given up TV are making their way back into it for fear of missing out. There's also great opportunity for actors to build their popularity and reputation, which is harder to construct within a few-hour movie, which is true. There's a lot of people making themselves stars on television. Game of Thrones, there's a few people there that are A-list actors now that were
I mean, just look at Peter. Just look at Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, I mean, he was around before, but I mean, he was playing an elf or a little person in Elf, right?
Yeah,
and like he wasn't necessarily starring in movies.
No, and now he's like look at what he got in X-Men.
Yeah,
like the lead bad guy.
Yeah. Sophie Turner, also X-Men.
Sophie Turner, X-Men.
Just pretty much was a lead role in like the newest X-Men movie.
Yeah.
And then the writer goes on. Also, many of the actors cast into movies nowadays are yesterday's TV actors. And it's through their TV appearances that they have gained their current popularity. It is safe to say that today's TV series successful actors can be tomorrow's popular cinema actors. So I think maybe implied there is the talent that you can get is usually really good because they're up and coming people.
Yeah.
The next big point here, fascinating build-up of the story. The TV series is built as a sequence of several seasons, allows viewers to gradually get attached to characters, also creating plot with suspense growing from one season to another will generate an addictive type of fascination, which will have viewers fretting to watch the next episode and the next one and so on. The transformation of characters and so-called character arcs need time to unfold, and if it's done over a movie over the movie imposed short sequences. It feels rushed and usually lacks the depth, hence hindering the very detail it is trying to convey. One of the greatest advantages of TV is that it can combine multiple genres within several seasons, hence spicing up the plot in the process. In a movie, the marketing industry, the movie needs to be defined as a genre or a combination of two genres. Meanwhile, a TV series can start off as a sci-fi, later shift to a horror. It can combine drama and romance for one episode or to the next without losing its edge, while still giving you the roller coaster feel throughout the show. The slow build-up allows TV series to typically grow its climax towards the end of each season, culminating that with the last season. The show usually has viewers hooked by that time. And I think that like the first season, if we end up getting the full season, is going to really pay that off with like,
For sure.
you know, the way book 4 culminates. That last episode's going to be huge.
Yeah, it will.
And brutal.
Oof.
Yeah, Charyu Tree.
Too soon.
Bonding with characters is also likely to happen with the TV series. Watching your favorite characters for months, sometimes years on end, and from the comfort of your own living room is bound to create a closer bond than getting invested while watching them on a cinema screen for a couple hours. Some of the characters end up feeling like members of your extended family. Again, that could end tragically.
God.
Hey, am I wrong?
No.
People are going to get attached and horrible, horrible things are going to happen. Then the last point here, The Dark Tower could be another hit for Amazon if done right. Movies are now more like icing on the cake, which explains the success of Netflix and Amazon. Netflix subscriptions are mostly based on TV series, while HBO and AMC have also enjoyed tremendous success from shows like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. Netflix's Black Mirror and Stranger Things have similarly become pop culture landmarks. The Dark Tower is being handled by Amazon, and we've already seen a few leaked images from Instagram a few weeks ago that looked fairly promising. Fortunately, the images have since been removed from social media platforms, so we'll have to wait for official stills to get a better idea of what to expect from the final product. So, yeah, I think that's some good points. Some that we had talked about, some that we hadn't. I think that, like, I really do think that it's, maybe I don't have the same, like, surety that I had with, like, that this will be a hit. Because, I mean, there are good things that don't get the followings that they should. Yeah. But, yeah, I have a lot of confidence that if this is done properly, that this could really be the next big show. Yes, Chris says Charyu Tree is always too soon. So I guess he agrees with you.
So I got a story about Charyu Tree.
Yeah, go on.
We had a little game night last night at my place with mostly my wife's side of the family. Played a game where you answer questions, and one of them was, if you're about to be set on fire, what would you say to get him to do it? And I had a Dark Tower moment where I'm like, Charyu Tree? But then I can't put that because no one's read the Dark Tower. Yeah, so no one would have got it. So it's just like, damn it, I need the palaver.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so this next one may seem weird at first. This is the article title here, but there's something hidden in here. And I guess it isn't completely out of the ordinary. We've had a number of music things over the years that we've talked about, musicians and stuff. Yep. So this the title here is Marilyn Manson on the Southern new album, Machine Gun Kelly Twins of Evil tour by Den Epstein from Revolver on July 8th, 2019. And this is just a Q&A. And it's so basically, just to give you some context before what they're talking about, is this new album is Marilyn Manson is teaming with Shooter Jennings, the son of Waylon Jennings, which is also a musician, and they're doing this album together. And the question is it just you and Shooter on the album? And then Marilyn Manson goes on to like list whose musicians are there, like drummers, guitar players, like, you know, lays that out. But then he says this spot that interests us. He says, Shooter and I are also doing a cover of The End by The Doors for the new miniseries The Stand by Stephen King. Oh. So that's interesting as all hell. Yeah. I mean, those two are interesting musicians, and that's a really cool song. And obviously you could see why that would fit with the Stand.
For sure.
But then he adds another little thing here on the end, which is even more interesting. He says, which I am also going to be acting in.
Oh, wow.
So
Marilyn Manson's going to be in The Stand?
Yes.
Damn.
So predictions. My first thought, I said this on Twitter when this happened. I said Monster Shouter.
Yeah,
That would be interesting, I think.
that would be good.
Um,
Someone in Vegas.
yeah, I think a lot of people are saying Vegas people.
Watch him be the one that gets crucified.
Yeah. A lot of people on Twitter just said just what Travis says here, Trash Can Man. The only thing, as I don't know, is what kind of acting ability does Marilyn Manson have? Because Trashy's going to be a really big role.
Yeah,
that's a meaty role.
When you look at the stand, there's like 3 really big roles that are going to have to be very good actors to pull it off. Tom Cullen, Nick Andros, and Trash Can Man.
Yeah, even more than like Lloyd.
Even more than Lloyd, Flag, Stu, Fran, Mother Abigail. I disagree.
I'd say Flag would have to be really big too,
Well,
because he's the central thing.
But the thing is that he's not a complex character. You know, he's no different than 90 other bad guys in films that think that they're right.
Hey, listen here, buddy.
No, I'm not. But the thing is, though, is that it really is. It's one of those things where Flag is he has little ticks in his little titter that the guy reading the book on Audible gets so well done. But versus something like Tom Cullen, Nick Andros, and Trash Can Man, those are way more complex characters. They're going to take way more in-depth acting than a bad guy.
Yeah,
like Lloyd or Flag or even the good guys.
Yeah, I think the actor doing Flag though is going to have to do well to not only be believable as a leader, but also to be terrifying, which is not always easy for lesser actors to do. You know, he's going to have to be terrifying both to the people in their dreams, but also to the people in Vegas. Like, why are they staying in line when they all realize shit's coming apart? Because they're terrified of him. But no, yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, I think Trashy's definitely one of the biggest, more important roles, especially if Poke was brought up by Chris, said Poke maybe. Because even if they bring that up, that whole aspect, or the kid, like suddenly he becomes that much more, you know, like there's a lot with that character. And I would say even the miniseries even skimmed on him a bit. You don't get as much from Trashy as you could. And I'd be curious what we're going to get in Boone's series. But yeah, I think he could play Poke. I think there's a number of things. Travis says he's decent. He had a role in Sons of Anarchy. And they actually mentioned in this interview, he said that they actually did a song. He and Shooter did a song for Sons of Anarchy, but they ended up not using it, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he said they ended up deciding they didn't like it, the musicians,
I'm curious.
and didn't give it to them.
I'm curious. I asked in the chat, I was asking Travis, how big of a role did he have in Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah.
Like, is it like he was there for one scene and he says hi or something like that? Because, cameo basically. Or did he actually have like a role and everything like that?
Yeah, that's what I'd be curious about.
He was an inmate. I won't go into spoilers, but he had an important role. So yeah, I mean, apparently he's had some acting experience.
I mean, I will say he's a very theatrical musician.
Yeah.
So maybe part of that comes with it is like persona, and which comes with acting. Like, I mean, I've always told people that were surprised, like when The Rock made it big in Hollywood. I'm like, guys, you realize he's been acting live on television for a decade or so. Like, you know, professional wrestlers, like they're doing it. They're basically doing theater live, as well as
wrestling
and doing stunts. Yeah. So it's like there's going to be some of those guys that are really good at acting, like Drax, Batista.
Yeah, Dave Batista.
You know, he's the same way. I'm like, of course there's going to be some that maybe are just cheesier, but like in general, like, I guess musicians can maybe carry the same aspect where it's like, some of these guys are putting on shows. They're a persona on stage that allows them to kind of be a different person. That
for sure,
and that's what is acting beyond that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. That was certainly a big question mark in my head when that was first announced. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, the end, like, fucking A, sign me up to hear that fucking song. But like him acting in it, that's a strange one. But yeah, so your prediction is, what do you think?
I think he's just going to be someone in Vegas, someone along the lines there.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be Trash Can Man.
Okay.
I could see it, but I think Trash Can Man's going to go to, I don't want to say like a serious actor, but I think it's going to go to someone who's going to be able to definitely do something with the role that's got experience. Like the guy that did it in the miniseries was pretty good.
Yeah.
For what he was given.
Yeah.
So I like your idea. Monster Shouter would be really hilarious to see Marilyn Manson be the Monster Shouter.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of like whatever, who else, but like, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential.
Watch him be Harold.
Yeah, I think he's like probably 20, 30 years too old for that. But
he plays Glenn Bateman. That.
I mean, there are some people on Twitter that maybe even said flag, and I'm not. Again, it would really depend on what kind of
Sure.
ability he had as acting, but yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one for sure.
In all reality, he would not make a terrible Lloyd.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know. The problem is it's hard for me to get past the series, the original series.
Yeah.
With any of these characters,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for me to accept new because like when I read it, I picture from the original
Oh,
series.
yeah.
So like, I don't know, like. For me, unless the monster shout, unless you're gonna get like Shaq or another basketball player, like I could see it being something like. But yeah, like there's a lot of
It's LeBron.
there's a lot of riffraff in Vegas, like
Sure.
that I think he could easily pull off. You know what would be a good one is the people in Idaho with the judge.
Oregon.
Is it? Oh, he goes up through Idaho.
He goes up through Idaho into Oregon. That's where they meet him. Yeah.
One of those.
One of the guys. Because there's the guy that is nice and calm, and he's a little bit older. Then there's the younger guy that Marilyn Manson could easily play him, and he's the twitchy one that freaks out and ends up killing both of them actually.
Yeah.
And then Flag kills him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be fun.
I honestly wouldn't be amiss if they made him the guy that Heck Drogan is his name, that gets crucified for using cocaine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That would be interesting. Hey, there's like Ace High. He could play Mr. Ace.
And you know what? There's some part of me that thinks that part of Manson's stage show, at least back in our high school era, was him being crucified on stage.
Yeah.
So I think that
he's signing up to fulfill a dream, to fulfill one of his fantasies.
Yeah. I think that used to be part of his stage show. I could be completely wrong on that. If there's any people that are bigger into Manson that can correct me, but I remember I bought a couple of his records like back in like our high school era back in the early 2000s, but I haven't really followed him heavily since. But yeah. Maybe Heck Drogan would be an interesting one.
Heck Drogan would definitely be an interesting one, but I could also see him being like, there's a couple different characters that they have in Vegas. One of them that comes and gets Larry and Ralph out of prison is called the Rat Man.
Yeah.
Dressed like a pirate.
Yeah.
Easily could be that guy. He'd be there for a couple scenes.
He
and
was
stuff
great
like
in the miniseries, dude.
Yeah.
The guy that got the miniseries.
The Rat Man knows.
Rat Man. He has like the weirdest
Rat Man
voice.
knows.
Yeah. Okay, so now moving back to your favorite set of pictures here for this next article.
All right.
I mean, not as bad, but this is Warner Brothers haunted by lawsuits from producers of the It miniseries. And I brought this up on Twitter to get some people's thoughts, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it here. This is by Eric Gardner. Eric spelled in a way I've never seen before with a Q. From The Hollywood Reporter on July 19th, 2019. I almost said June there. So it starts off here. Frank Konigsberg and Larry Sansky, executive producers of the first adaptation of King's horror novel It, say they were wrongfully denied opportunity to participate in the Warner Brothers recent It movies.
Wow.
In a lawsuit filed on Thursday in the LA Superior Court, the two alleged that they had contractual rights to engage in negotiations for any sequels, series remakes, or spin-offs, plus are entitled to a minimum share of 10% of net profits from any subsequent productions. I mean, just in general, I would say, like, I don't think that's a normal thing that you would give to any kind of creators.
Yeah.
So that seems odd to me. And then quote here, quote, "This action arises out of Warner Brothers' utter failure to honor its obligations the complaint introduces. The latest version of It was released through Warner Brothers' New Line banner in 2017. It grossed more than $700 million worldwide. A sequel hits theater in September. Konigsberg and Sansky ran Telepictures Productions in the mid-1980s before the company was merged with Lorimar Productions. Today, Telepictures is a division of Warner Brothers that produces such shows as Ellen, Extra, and TMZ Live. The plaintiffs say they shepherded the development of the 1990 miniseries, and that despite its success, a profit participation statement in 1995 showed the miniseries was in deficit, with no profits to be distributed. The two say they waited 25 years for another profit statement, which finally this past March they got, showing they were entitled to $1 million of the profits. The lawsuit questions whether that's really everything, and Konigsberg and Sansky include the claim of fraud over the accounting. And this is like age-old thing, because there is a lot of times people are given, like, you'll get a percentage of the profits, but Hollywood is masterful at basically getting it to the point where movies don't make profits, basically
Mhm.
like, because like even things like I was listening to a podcast recently who was explaining this, which is kind of apropos to this coming up now.
Yeah.
But basically like, so Disney has like their side, they make movies, right? But they also, the other big wing of them is the distribution side.
Sure.
Well, what happens is the distribution side charges the filmmaking side $300 million to distribute the movie throughout the country, and it's a very big production to get like the film out to 3,000-4,000 movie theaters.
You're talking to the theaters, not like DVDs,
and
Blu-ray.
DVDs and stuff. That stuff as
okay.
well. All the distribution. It's a huge thing. It's a whole different thing. It's like, think about what Amazon does with like getting stuff where it needs to go. Like, it's a huge ordeal,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But the problem is though, is if that's all under Disney's auspices, how is one end of Disney charging the other one so much money? That's the thing where people start to think like they have perfected the way to make it to where they'll give you in their contract that you'll get profits, but they are guaranteed. They found a way to guarantee a movie never actually shows profits on a sheet, basically by
Because we
hook
had
or
to
by
pay.
crook.
We had to pay for $300 million to distribute the movie. Yeah, but it was distributed by Disney.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you distributed it.
But
so.
it's just one of those things that like, it's just, so there's a lot of stuff. So I will say that this aspect of it and the fact that they actually got a statement 20 something years later and they are owed $1 million, that doesn't surprise me. And that actually seems more legit to me. That's probably true. These kind of lawsuits come up all the time because basically it's them challenging like, hey, the studios are fucking this shit around.
Yeah.
They're criminals in some ways because they hide this shit, and we're owed money. Like, that's nothing new. It's the stuff I mentioned earlier that surprises me a little bit. And then it says the portion of the dispute pertaining to the movie's recent movie is higher stakes, given that it has reached such blockbuster status. The 2017 feature film is indeed a remake. It is indisputable, states the complaint. And I think that's where the question arises for me. Is the new series in any way, and this is what I threw out on Twitter, is it in any way connected to the original series in your mind? Is it a remake? Is it a reboot? Or like, what were the phrases? I mean, they're saying basically remake. That's a quote from the complaint. The 2017 feature film is indeed a remake, and it is indisputable. Do you feel that the 2017 movie is a remake of the 1990 miniseries?
I don't think it's a remake. It's a movie based off of the series.
Off the series or off the book?
Off the book.
Because that's the thing, is I would say is like, I think that's the two big questions there. Are you remaking the miniseries, or are you readapting the book, which then completely precludes the miniseries?
No, you're right. Worded poorly by me, but yeah, you're 100% right. Is that it's 100% retelling the book story in movie form. It's like a 21 Jump Street. There was a TV show, but there wasn't a book before it. So when they made 21 Jump Street, the movie with Channing Tatum and what's the little guy's name? Fucking smaller guy. Just based on his name.
I don't know.
Comedic actor. He's in Wolf of Wall Street with DiCaprio.
Oh, Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill. Thank you. With Jonah Hill.
Now you're speaking my language.
That's I got you. I know where to put it for Tad. I know where to put it for my wife. I know where to put it for other people.
You know where to lay it out.
I know where to lay it out, so I know someone can help me out. But so for me, it's 21 Jump Street is based off a TV show. But now it's okay. So that's where it comes down to, is Tim Burton always going to be entitled to Batman movie royalties?
Or what about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah. It's initially based off of a book.
The 2005 movie that starred Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Would you call that a remake of the original series with Gene Wilder, or the original movie with Gene Wilder, or is it a readaptation of the book by Ronald Dahl, right?
Yeah. I got to be more familiar with the book, because I mean that's one thing that I would say is like, okay, so if I remade The Running Man or The Shining,
yeah,
right, and I made it truer to the book,
yeah,
am I having to pay Stanley Kubrick and whoever made The Running Man royalties because I'm remaking their movie?
Yeah,
no, I'm remaking the book into a movie.
Exactly. I just wanted to get everyone's opinion. That's why I threw it on Twitter.
Yeah, as long as I'm working with the studio that has the rights to the original adaptation from the novel,
original work. Yeah,
right. I don't think that they would be entitled to anything. But then again, if I'm a lawyer, I don't know.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. But I think that's where the crux of that part of the argument. Because again, there's the profit sharing thing. That's a whole different argument. I'm not even gonna I don't even want to go too heavy into that because that's age old Hollywood. But the new aspect to this I've never really heard before is that they claim that they were basically promised to be included or to be able to pitch on any kind of remake, anything that may come out of that original series, and they're saying that they were denied that. And I just don't know. I think I have to agree that it's a readaptation of the book. I don't think it has anything to do with the 1990 miniseries.
No.
Is there anything in the miniseries that is not in the book, that is in the miniseries, that is also covered in 2017 movie? That's where I think the proof might come that you
distinction.
Remade it. Yeah, like if there was a scene that was completely invented, it wasn't in the book at all, it was completely invented because Tim Curry wanted to do something, and then you then took that and used it in the 2017 version.
Sure.
Now I think they might win that because you're not readapting the book. We actually have proof here, something that's not in the book that was in the series that is now in your movie. Fuck you, pay me type thing. Like, I guess that would be it, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's like the one that I keep coming back to is the Batman example because I'm really familiar with it. If the Robert Pattinson stuff coming out soon with him being Batman goes off of something that Michael Keaton and Tim Burton did, and it was only them.
Yeah.
If they made it to where, okay, well, we remember the Joker, and they throw a picture of Jack Nicholson up in the Joker, well, we're throwing back to that movie.
Yeah.
Like, well, come on, you got to pay those guys. Like,
yeah.
That's their work there and everything like that.
And that generally doesn't come up as much in that sense, I don't think. Because again, I don't think they usually give these kind of agreements, but that was mostly a question I wanted to bring up. I threw it out on Twitter because it was kind of like, there's part of me, we talked about it with the Dark Tower. I feel like if this is true, why didn't these guys sue back when the series or the first movie was being made? Why didn't they produce, sue earlier? But then remember what I mentioned earlier? Nobody apparently knew that this is going to be a hit. Are they now suing a month or so before the new movie comes out? After the first movie made $700 million, are they basically trying to hit when the iron's hot? A lot of these like frivolous lawsuits tend to come up at the most inopportune moments. Like like the Dark Tower, that whole thing that Stephen King ripped off
was with
Roland.
the movie.
They waited 40-something years
for the movie
to never say anything, to then suddenly, like, right before the movie came out is when they sued and said, you owe us fucking $400 million, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Because you ripped off this character from my father's, whatever it was. I don't remember.
My uncle is what
But
it
I remember
was.
in the early 2000s, there was actually one that went the other way because there was a person that wrote some sci-fi thing that sued, like, Terminator, Matrix, and a bunch of movies. And
the concept of machines
of, like,
using humans, right?
Yeah, like time traveling. Yeah, whatever it was. And they actually ended up winning that one. So maybe it's just like roll the dice and hope for either one, the studio to just go, okay, here, we'll cut you a small check for us, but it's a sizable sum for you maybe.
It's a win for you.
Or you might actually get lucky like that person. Because I want to say it was like early 2000s, because right around the time I think that Terminator 3 and one of the Matrix movies were coming out right around the same time. And I feel like it was a lady maybe that was involved. And I feel like they actually won and actually got like a percentage of like some of these fucking massive franchises.
Yeah.
But so maybe it goes the other way, but it's weird to me. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring it because I brought it up on Twitter, and I thought like bring it up for discussion here as well.
Sure.
Most people online were on Twitter were mostly agreeing that it felt frivolous. Now, some people were talking about obviously like it turned into a whole different discussion of like how the two things influence each other. Did 2017 create popularity for the 1991 again? Did the 1991 create popularity, like, which I think it's symbiotic. I think both of those things feed off each other. I think we mentioned that early in the episode. If the 1990 thing never came out, I don't think this movie made $700 million.
Sure.
So, but that doesn't necessarily give them any right to any money.
Right to the monetary value.
No. Just like Burton's movie in '89 is probably one of the biggest things for Batman in the outside of the comic realm, right?
Yeah.
People in comics a few years earlier, you had Frank Miller get into like Batman and reinvent the character.
Yeah, The Dark Knight Returns.
But it's like it wasn't until '89 with that Burton that like fucking Batman was one of the biggest things ever. That was like one of those ones where like you couldn't go to like there wasn't a newspaper that didn't have Batman in it, that you didn't have like restaurants that didn't have Batman toys and everything. Like,
sure.
Batman was fucking everywhere.
Yeah,
like that was like one of those things that really put Batman back on the map. So
see you, Mark. Mark had to take off.
Oh, cool. See you, Mark. Let's see what's going on here. So Jonah, let's see.
Yeah, Jonah Hill.
Oh,
yeah.
And then I think somebody Chris asked about Gary Oldman, which is the actor I adore. Indeed, I had to answer that because I sensed it. I'm like, Gary Oldman is mentioned.
My master.
Let's see. And then Chris says 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a much closer adaptation of the book. Yeah, Johnny Depp is an absolute freak show in that movie. Yeah, he made me uncomfortable. And then Travis says I'm dropping Goodfellas references, which I completely...
You did?
Did I? I don't remember. I could have, though. I'm so...
It happens with Tad. He'll drop reference. He'll be like, ha! He'll be like, what?
Yeah, and then Chris says Tad can't help himself, and that's absolutely true, because apparently I did it without even knowing. So, which it's not beyond me by any means. So yeah, that's definitely fun. So now we get into the odds and ends here toward the end. We got some email. We'll get a couple emails as well.
Yeah.
And then Chris says, after the 2017 movie was released, the 1990 miniseries appeared on the top 10 on iTunes here in Australia. I don't doubt it. I think there was probably a huge influx for that because people wanted to go back and revisit it. No doubt. Yeah, I think it's definitely symbiotic between the two. There's no doubt about that.
Travis left you a comment.
I was trying to troll Tad with the Oldman comment. Oh, was it Travis that made Gary Oldman comment? No, Chris says Goldberg will play Abigail easily. Isn't Oldman the actor? Oh, Travis mentioned Gary earlier. Whoopi Goldberg is going to play Mother Abigail, and Gary Oldman got cast as Flag. Oh yeah, Travis, how dare you? Don't toy with my emotions like that.
Did he really say that in the chat? I totally missed that.
He did.
How do you like it?
Toying with my emotions.
How do you like it? That's what you do to me.
Okay, I get it now. Your Goodfellow reference is "fuck you, pay me." Yeah, that is very actually.
That is actually a very that's a Goodfellas reference.
And I probably said it in the very same tone that was said in the movie. Like
he does it subconsciously, folks.
Yeah, it's a great movie, by the way. Okay, so in the odds and ends section. First up, Stephen King and Owen King's book Sleeping Beauties is getting a comic adaptation.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'll have to. I still need to read that one.
I do too.
I'm kind of behind. I don't know. I want to say, when did I lose track? I haven't read Revival yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've read all the Hodges books, but like there's some of the newer King books I'm still behind on. But yeah, I don't know. No, I have not watched the OA yet. Got sidetracked. It's definitely still on my radar though. I haven't yet though. Sorry about that, Chris. I know you're
OA?
the one I mentioned it on the show.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
It has some very Dark Tower
esque.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting things. And yeah, I do still need to watch it. I can't remember what diverted me exactly, but something got me off track. And
Twilight Zone.
Because see, the Twilight Zone, like I like just having something that I can just watch. It's like super low, like like I don't have to be super engaged.
Like The Simpsons.
I just throw it last night I
MASH.
There's just some shows I could just like. I don't want to like throw on Breaking Bad for something like that. I don't want to throw on like there's certain shows like you can't do that for, in my opinion.
No, it's,
and the OA's the same way. I want to like give attention to that. Like I don't want to just throw that on while I'm eating or while I'm like prepping a show or something. Like
my wife's the same way. Right now, her current one is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so that's what the Twilight Zone is for me. Not that it doesn't need attention, because it is great and it's brilliant in a lot of ways. But it's just one that like they're 20-25 minute episodes. You just throw it on while I'm eating and watch something while I'm eating and then skedaddle or whatever. So no, but I definitely will get back to it. And Chris, season 2 is so Dark Tower, and I definitely can feel the way that season 1 ended, how Dark Tower is. Season 2 might get way more like that. Okay, and the next up, Josh Boone made official some of the casting announcements that we talked about in the previous episodes.
Okay.
I don't think he confirmed that I've noticed Whoopi Goldberg, but I know like James Marsden, the one playing Nadine, I believe, was confirmed. Just a few, and I just on his Instagram he posted pictures of the actors and said so. But it's all the pretty much he just confirmed some of the ones that we've already talked about. So I didn't want to go.
So Whoopi's confirmed, huh?
No, I don't think he confirmed.
Whoopi's not confirmed.
That I saw, no.
Okay.
I saw Marsden. There was the other one the one that was an X-Men, the one that will never come out. I'm blanking on the name of it now. The one that's like been pushed off 2 times. Maisie Williams is in it.
Oh,
there's an actor that's in that is like really up and coming. He's one of those we talked about.
It's like the young X-Men, the horror version, right?
Yeah, New Mutants.
New Mutants.
Yeah, the one that'll never come out. The one that probably was never even filmed. There is no film in this camera.
Yeah, what's going on with that? We'll talk after about that.
I don't know. I'm convinced it won't ever come out. But like there's the dude that was in that it was one of the big credits they gave him when we talked about him. He's one of the ones that was confirmed, and then I think it's the lady that was playing Nadine, or maybe it was one that was playing Franny that he's confirmed. So just a couple of them, not the whole list that we covered, but some. And I'm trying to keep an eye on his Instagram to keep up with it. But Instagram is probably my most neglected social media outlet.
Yeah.
The Stand miniseries is coming out on Blu-ray in September.
Nice.
So that's great. You want to see Randall Flagg in full 1080p.
I did see that on Facebook, and I was
really?
I clicked on it, and it's like, with the stand coming and casting announcements being confirmed, and I went back. Nope, that's going to be saved for the Palaver. I'm not going to read that. I realized that I had started to peek my head out of the sand a little bit, and I had to put it back.
So the only thing that's interesting about that is it wasn't shot on 35 millimeters, so it's basically what they shot it on cannot equivocate to 1080p. So I don't know that it's like fully like necessary for Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're gonna give me a more polished and hopefully some cool special features of the stand, like fucking sign me up.
You up?
Yeah, I'll take it.
I know you.
I'll take it. Chris says Nadine is one of his favorite characters in the stand. That's awesome. Yeah, she is a really good character. She's probably one that you need a really good actor for as well.
Yeah.
In terms of like, she's got a lot going on with her. Like,
yeah.
I mean, her and Harold both are like characters. Like, yeah, if we really broke it down, there's certain ones like you just draw a line and go. There's certain ones above the line that just these ones have to be fucking great. And there's ones that can maybe be lesser actors if they had to.
For me, it's like Ralph, Franny, maybe even Glenn. Wouldn't have to be like stellar actors that have to hit it out of the ballpark for me to be like, they're going to ruin the show if they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even Stu, because he's such a strong silent type, doesn't make me feel like it has to be, like, don't get me wrong, Gary Sinise is a fucking treasure, and I adore him as Stu. And
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan, you got legs! And everything. But for me, I really think it comes down to those big three. How big of a part Trash Can Man is in the novel, especially the extended novel, which is the only one I've ever read. Nick Andros and Tom Cullen. Tom Cullen is such a pivotal part of the stand.
Oh, yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
And if you get someone that botches that, like,
and
pack up and go home.
And it could make it very cringe-worthy.
It
as
would.
well if that isn't done properly.
You've never seen Tropic Thunder, have you?
No.
There's a running joke that Ben Stiller's character does a movie prior, because Tropic Thunder's about them making a Vietnam movie. His character played a retarded man previously in a movie set. And it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
When they show clips of it, it's hard to watch.
I think I know some lines from that.
Yeah.
Just from like the social ethos kind of carries some of that.
It's very memeable and everything. And so it makes me think of that when you say it's hard to watch, because like it's supposed to be like his serious role, and it's utter filth.
Because the dude that played the SpongeBob voice did great in the original. Like,
he played Tom.
He does it great. Yeah. So
he doesn't do SpongeBob. He does one of the characters in SpongeBob.
Whatever it is in SpongeBob. I don't freaking know SpongeBob.
I just don't want you to get crucified by the SpongeBob fans in the Palaver. All right?
What was it in Infinity War? I thought a SpongeBob character was a Pokemon.
Squidward.
There was some joke. I'm like, what Pokemon is that?
He calls him Squidward.
Yeah, I don't know any of that nonsense. I was too old for that kind of stuff. Like, hell, even Pokemon was like
Simple Jack. That's what it was called. You're right. Travis, thank you.
Let's see, and then he says, Chris says Nadine leaving Harold to die. Yeah, that's a brutal scene, indeed, in the book for sure.
Yeah.
And then Chris also asks what we're reading right now. I guess we're in odds and ends.
No, okay. So if we're going to do odds and ends, this is the perfect time for me to do this. I'm going to throw this out to the people in the chat. You guys are going to be the ones to decide. What do I read next? I literally finished The Stand about 2 hours ago. So I put it. I had Tad put this up on Twitter for me a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
4 novels that are in my Audible that are at the bottom that I need to reread. It actually was brought up on a couple shows ago that I have not read Under the Dome for a long time. So Under the Dome, 11/22/63, Dr. Sleep, and The Stand were the choices. Stand won by a landslide.
Yeah.
We're going to keep the same 3, and we're just going to go through process of elimination here because I'm going to read all 4 of these. So 11/22/63, Under the Dome, or Dr. Sleep. Chat, vote now. By the end of this episode, I'm going to have a new book to read. I'll download it now while we're finishing up.
For me, I actually needed to take a step away from fiction for a tiny bit. I always get these like little things where I'm just like, I don't know. I just need to jump into like the nonfiction side. I don't know if you ever get that, Peter, or not, but
I did. I told you about this. I did a World War II kick earlier this year. I had to read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Oh yeah. So I found one. It is called The Baseball Codes. and it is basically an entire book about all the unwritten rules of baseball. And it is
Holy shit, really?
and it is telling many stories about the code, different codes. And as a baseball fan, I think it's fascinating. Even if you're not a baseball fan, I think there's a lot of like fun psychology involved. And yeah, I mean, Peter, you're a sports fan enough to know like baseball and its unwritten rules are hand in hand, like football and cheerleaders. It's just a book I heard about via another podcast actually, and I was just like instantly like I need that. And it was like 10 hours, so it's like on the low end of what I would generally do like on Audible, but I jumped on it and I'm kind of midway through that right now, and I've been finding it very fascinating. And then once I'm done with that, I'll jump back into Winning Through the Keyhole.
Now I'm gonna stop and do the stand like you were craving.
I mean, now that you're finished, no. I wanted to try to do it like to coincide with you, but it was just like I kind of knew that like I was coming up on one of those where I'm like, I just need a break from fiction for a bit. I wasn't fully into it, but I knew that it was coming, so I'm like, I don't want to start the stand right now because I don't know that I'll be able to finish it. So yeah, I'll probably start the stand a little bit further into the year, most likely. So next up, Mr. Mercedes dropped a poster for season 3.
That's badass.
Yeah, it is. I've only seen the first season up to this point. But this gentleman that is playing Hodges did a great job, and he's looking very
grizzled.
Grizzled is the perfect word. He is a grizzled motherfucker. That's for sure. Yeah, no, and he's looking very intense. And we're going back to Finders Keepers. Book 2 of the Hodges trilogy is being covered for this 3rd season. And as well as you can see at the bottom there, September 10th. Is when it airs back on Audience Network. So I'm hoping
pisses me off.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can find a way to watch it somehow because it's I need to see season 2 still. Now.
Yeah. So the chat's like voted unanimously so far. So I think we got like 3 or 4 votes for Dr. Sleep for me. But
speaking of Dr. Sleep.
Oh shit.
How familiar are you with deep fakes?
Deep fakes?
This new thing that's out there. That basically they've developed this thing that they could basically put somebody else's face over someone, and it is fairly believable and convincing. So I wanted to watch one.
Okay.
Let me actually I should do this before so we don't go silent with the video like we did one other time before here. Because I need to switch it over. And then it's The Shining. Starring Jim Carrey.
What the fuck?
Dude.
Are we going to get taken down for this?
I don't know.
Wendy, I'm home.
That's all I think about when he slides down the frickin' snow.
It's unsettling.
Jesus Christ, is that really... It looks like Jack.
Just wait till we get a little bit closer here. There's a few other scenes, too.
Like, I saw it before, yeah.
But this is the one that I picked. There's a couple scenes, though. The baseball bat scene is one.
Wherever you are.
And for people on the podcast, check the show notes to watch this.
Yeah, for sure. Breaking down the door, we got Wendy with the knife. We're about to get the line, aren't we? And, well, they made him, like, break an actual door. Like, this isn't a prop door.
Yeah. They tried a prop door and he incinerated it.
Yeah. He used to be a firefighter, right?
Here's Johnny.
Jesus Christ!
And I actually think that's probably the least good of the ones that they've done for him. But it was the shorter one, so I wanted to do it. Dude, on the show notes, I'll throw on like there's the scene where, if I'm writing, don't fucking bother, like that whole scene, as well as the baseball bat scene on the stairs. Dude, and it's like in the chat here, Chris says deep fakes are terrifying. Travis says deep fake, it's going to cause a lot of controversy. Yeah, so the concern where I think Travis talked about, there's a lot of concern with people is that with these, like, is there going to be issues caused because you could basically make someone appear as though they're doing something when they never did.
Oh yeah.
Like, and like this one is, like I said, this is the least best of them, dude. Like the stairway one, I was watching it before this and I was just like, because like not only is it Jim's face, but like it's emoting the emotions and stuff to look like he's acting in the fucking scene. It's terrifying, like it really is.
Yeah, I noticed it when it showed Jack when he was swinging from the side.
Yeah,
not from inside the bathroom, but from the side where you're watching him strike the door. It had it like where Jim's like grimacing, like he's exerting effort.
Yeah,
it's not just like some dumbass smile.
Yeah,
from one of his comedies. No, it looks like he's like actually like trying to push something or pull something.
Yeah,
like exerting physical effort.
Yeah,
they did a really good job getting. Oh damn, that's scary.
Yeah, so it's I just had to share, like, and I debated. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't, but I was just like, I want to, because it is terrifying, and like it's King related, so why not?
Holy shit. So Ryan joined us in the chat, and he says, a couple years ago, I went to Universal Horror Nights. They had a shining maze. It was cool.
That was pretty awesome.
Sign me the fuck up for a shining maze.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as long as Jack Nicholson's not there with a fucking hatchet. No.
How good are you backstepping your
backstepping my feet prints? How good am I at running? That's where the problem lies.
Oh man, yeah. So I'll throw all these shining deep fakes on the show notes. Go ahead and go watch them all and sleep well afterwards.
Jesus.
So let's jump on over to
God. Emails. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
Oh, that's not getting
deleted. God damn it. Oh, God damn it. Oh, fuck.
All right. So, yeah, I got some emails. And you know what? I actually realized I moved one up just because it was maybe a little bit more date related. It's already a month old. But I forgot to move the slide. So what?
Cody just put in the chat, FYI, I'm eating tuna fish salad with lobstrosity chunks in it.
Oh man.
Oh shit.
So so I won't have a slide for this one here, this first one here, but it's Alan from Tet of Discord. He's emailed us a few times over the years.
Yeah.
And he says, Size, it is with humble excitement that I'm emailing you today to let you know that the Dark Tower ARG game is that was previously going before the movie came out has started again. This time it seems to be geared towards it themed. It started around 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time today, although I will say, again, by the time I'm reading this, about a month late, unfortunately. I just dropped the ball on moving it up earlier. But when I saw it today, I'm like, I got to move that one up and do it quicker than... Because it was like toward the bottom of the list in chronological order here. Members of the Tet Discord have been fervently checking all the old Dark Tower sites for a previous game that are now containing cryptic messages leading towards events in the It story, namely the massacre at Kitchener's Steelworks. 88 came to play. Then he says, I give you examples, www.bangoskank.com, www.canconarray.com, and www.bigcoffinhunters.com. So everyone that may be newer, that maybe didn't listen to all the old episodes, ARG is augmented reality game. So these are like ones where it's kind of like almost a treasure hunt type thing, but it's all like online stuff. And like, you can't just like jump in. You got to like kind of like one of these I went to, I think it went to CanCon Array, and I think it asked for like a username and password. It's like, but that's something you're going to find at an earlier step of the process and stuff. So it's a lot of cool stuff. They actually had set up one that was actually shut down by Sony because Sony was going to do their own or something for the movie. So it looks like starting back up again. So I'll put all the links in the show notes. He says, please join us on the quest as you see fit. We've solved some of it already. Let me know if you want more details. Long days and pleasant nights. Signed, Alan.
Oh, cool.
So I thought I'd throw that out there, and I'll throw it on the show notes. yeah, it's should be fun. Those are definitely fun if you're into that kind of thing, but they're definitely could be some cool stuff on there for sure. So next up, we got Chris from Chicago. I know we're over our normal time realm, but when in Rome, right? So he says, "Hi, all gunslingers."
Kyle?
There's just a quick one here. This is something that I've thought about for years and was reminded of while listening to the Roundtable number 70 and the recap of King's best villains list. And to be fair, it's been a couple years since I've read through the Dark Tower series, so I can't even reference to what made me think this. But I always got a slight inclination that Little Blaine was the one in control when it comes to Blaine and between Blaine and Little Blaine. Like he said, or like he was one of the ones, like he was the one pulling the strings and was the one that was actually evil. And then there was not actually two of them. That it was always Little Blaine acting like there were two different personalities. At any rate, it's just something that I've always thought, and I'd love to hear your opinions. I hope this has not come up on the podcast before. While I've listened to all episodes, it's been a long ways back trying to remember. Sign Long Days and Pleasant Nights, Chris from Chicago.
I don't think we've ever talked about that.
I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this. Yeah, I think that we've definitely had some different thoughts on different things.
That's definitely an interesting idea.
Yeah, definitely. And wouldn't that really come down to like the Wizard of Oz stuff too?
Yeah.
Like Man Behind the Curtain versus the Oz the Great and Powerful. Wouldn't that really be the thing to like? And wouldn't it just be the ultimate kind of deception too, to pretend like the one that's friendly to you is actually, is actually like in on it, and maybe even like I don't know that there's anything in the text that jumps out at me off the top, but it doesn't mean that like it's not one of those things you could definitely make a case for. It's just one of those like I don't think it's explicitly stated in the book that like
it's definitely I see where he's coming from though, because there's one part of it that always sticks out in my head, and as soon as he said that you read that, it popped into my head again, is the part where Big Blaine's like, did one of you say something? And it's like, why would he miss that? Like he doesn't have the speakers off or anything like that. How could he possibly miss that? Yeah. And so for me, that's where it was kind of like, as soon as he said that, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Does Little Blaine actually have more control than we're led to believe? Yeah. And if he actually does have more control, is that just him fucking with them? Because wouldn't that be like the ultimate Blaine thing where you find out that, because like, is Little Blaine supposed to like garner their sympathy and cause it to where maybe they don't, try and stump him with a riddle and everything like that? So maybe that's what his plan was, and it never came to fruition because Eddie just fucking blew him away. Yeah. But it's definitely interesting to think about like that part, and then like the map changing colors. Like Blaine's not going to be able to realize that. Big Blaine's not going to be able to realize that. Like, come on. Yeah. I get Cody's point here. It's actually a very interesting concept that Little Blaine's just like a fucking. You mean Chris or Cody? Does Cody say something? No, Cody said something in the chat. Oh. So I was mixing up the two. No, it's really interesting if Chris might be onto something here. I could see that being legit. And then Chris in the chat says Blaine wanted to get them on board, and Little Blaine made that happen. Shit, that's true. The plot thickens. Oh damn. That is actually true. He's not no, he's 100% right. It is Little Blaine that gets them onto the train itself. Yeah. Shit. So, what do you think? Ooh. And I think even beyond the point of maybe saying who's in charge, but I would say at least that Little Blaine is in on it with Big Blaine. Like they're not at odds as we're made to believe. Yeah. I think you could say that safely with what's in the text and just say they're absolutely not against each other. Like Little Blaine's not helping and trying to like legitimately trying to help them. Like he's say this riddle, he doesn't know it. Yeah, he's not not doing that. No. And as Chris is pointing out in the chat, like Little Blaine is maybe helping get. I'm pretty sure Little Blaine is the reason why they solved the frickin' riddle to open the cradle, isn't he? I can't remember. It's been a minute since I was at that portion. Because again, that's like the other side of book 4 for me now. Oh yeah, and that's quite a breath to be away from. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one to discuss for sure. Yeah, that's I mean, first of all, never trust a train that talks. Let's just say that, right? Right. Like even Thomas the Train, I see it now and I'm just like, nope. There's a joke about that in Harry Potter where someone gets taken over by something magical that's an inanimate object. Back to along the lines with like what you're saying, don't trust a train that talks. One of the characters has a phrase, and I don't think it's in the movie, but it's in the books, and it says, hey, because he's talking to his daughter, he's like, haven't I taught you not to trust something if you can't see where it keeps its brain. It's like, that's a good idea. That's a good law to live by, because I can tell you right now, a lot of situations would go a lot differently if you didn't trust that thing that you can't see where it keeps its brain.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, I think that's we're a little over from our normal time, but I think that we could wrap it there with those couple emails.
Okay.
In terms of for the episode, yeah, no, that was good though. A lot of fun stuff to talk about, and yeah. So next time, top 10 lists. Everyone, shoot them to us on email.
Now.
Do it on email for if you want to share it on the show.
Yes.
Social media, you can engage with us, but it's tough for me generally to try to rope in tweets and stuff too.
Paste, yeah.
In terms of, well, it's not even just that, but also just social media is so fluid that it's
trying to get through all the
to
content
keep it
there.
and it's just so if you could email it, it makes it way easier on me. To
sure.
Just email top 10 Stephen King adaptations that are we're talking 100% about. That is a good movie. I'm not talking about that it is true to King's work. Just best movies, top 10 best movies adapted from Stephen King's works in terms of they are great fucking movies. So that's our list. Send it to us, top 10. We're covering it next time. And we will, like I said earlier in the show, what we'll do is we'll cross it. I'll build a thing in a way that I can basically read like number 10. Peter, what's yours? Tad, what's yours? And then here's what everyone that emailed in said, and we can read it through it to where we'll all kind of count down together and kind of discuss as a group what where we fall on all this. Because there was
for sure.
I think there was a number of people that were a little bit disagreeing with that list from earlier, and I was surprised at some stuff for sure.
And now one of the things that we're obviously going to have to stipulate is
just movies,
no
miniseries,
and also there are ones like that we have not seen.
Yeah.
So if we leave off a movie, it may not be intentional. I've never seen The Dead Zone.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't include that because I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And then Cody mentioned, did anyone play Discordia on Stephen King's website? No, I actually never did. I know that that's definitely on there, but it's not anything I've ever personally engaged with. But I know it is on there though. Or was. I don't know if it still is, but kind of a Dark Tower thing there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do our closing stuff real quick. First of all, if you want to subscribe to us, you can do it on iTunes. You could stream us on Stitcher. If you could rate and review us on iTunes, we would appreciate that. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. The videos, like the deep fakes, the articles I covered, as well as the stuff that Alan brought up, I will have all in the show notes. Everything that was brought up in this episode, I'll have all that stuff on the show notes. Check it out there at darktowerpalaver.com. And if you want to join us in our top 10 King movies, Peter can tell you the best way to do that.
Best way is to email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Put in top 10 King movies in the subject line. It's going to be real easy for Tad to go through and pull them out. Then if you do that, we also have a Facebook and Twitter presence. Like we said, please email us, though, for the top 10 list. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then we're on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then you can catch our shows. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Hit the like, subscribe by ringing the bell. You can get notifications when we're going live, like Travis does here in the chat. And then also you can watch live. You can see the video of Just Fake It. Is that what it's? Did I have that right?
Deep fake.
Deep fake. Thank you. Deep fake for the Jim Carrey over The Shining, which was haunting and terrifying and everything that I would want it to be. So
I saw one comment on there that made me laugh. They told the people you guys need to do deep fake next of Jack Nicholson inside the Rhino from Ace Ventura 2.
Oh my God.
And I want that. Deep in my
good
bones,
Lord.
I want that. And I want Shining era Jack Nicholson on that body of Ace Ventura getting out of the Rhino. But did you sorry, did you
No,
cut you off there?
that's it. So
Okay.
we're good.
Yeah, so check all that stuff out. And yeah, hit us up with your top 10s. We'll be back next time for another roundtable. And who knows what things will bring. Comic-Con still got a little bit of time to go. Cross your fingers that maybe we can hear something about Dark Tower. That'd be awesome. Maybe even some casting stuff.
That would be
Because
really
we still
cool.
have a couple people that are mystery men or still mystery men. We don't know who they're playing. And there's still a lot of roles that haven't been filled, including Cuthbert, the inevitable star of the show. I'm not wrong. I mean,
You're not.
unless they really castrate the character and really just fucking butcher him, he is going to be the best part of the show. There's no way he's not.
For sure.
He just, it's like Doc Holliday and Tombstone. There's a lot of good characters in that movie. but
Yeah.
none of them come close to Doc,
For
and
sure.
a lot of it comes to the humor. So
Oh,
yeah. So everyone on the podcast side, we will see you next time. And as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
And everyone in the live chat, thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, it's been fun. We had a pretty good crowd. I've lost my window now. There we go. We had a good crowd. You can see, I think we got up to 7 or 8 in here.
We had 9 at one point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of lost track of it at a certain point going through the notes, but I think Peter kept track. And
Yeah.
hopefully we were engaging to everyone that was there.
And official Dr. Sleep did win, so that's
okay.
Downloaded, listening to it on the ride home.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was thinking about actually doing that one again just to prep for the movie.
That's what everyone was saying in the chat when they were voting for it. Oh, you got to prep for the movie. You got to prep for the movie.
Yeah. Because me, I haven't listened to it since it came out.
Yeah,
I haven't.
I haven't
reread it at all.
I have,
so.
but it's definitely one that has. I listened to it once, and then I got The Shining, listened to The Shining and Dr. Sleep like 6 months later. So I listened to it a second time, but not since then. No.
Yeah, so maybe I'll jump on it too. I will say I'm honestly considering just going Kindle for the With the Keyhole, dude. I know some people love Stevie doing it, but he's just it's. I'm finding myself I'm finding myself drifting to where I'm not paying attention enough to where I'm just like. And again, I haven't read it since it first came out, so it's like I'm kind of hazy on some of it, to where I'm just like, no, I think I got to just get it on Kindle and actually just read it myself. Stevie, he's great. A lot of people do love him, and have disagreed with me on that, but he's just not doing it for me. I need more of the actor types.
You're just too spoiled with George and Frank.
Yeah, that's true. They also, I forgot to grab it for the odds and ends, but they also announced the narrator for The Institute.
Oh, cool.
It's a Tony Award winner, but it's not someone I was aware of. So it's definitely Will
Arnett? No.
Patton. Will Patton.
Yeah.
So but although I don't think he did the last King book, if I remember. I feel like there's one recently that he didn't do. So, but he's definitely been a staple recently.
He did The Outsider, didn't he?
Yes, I believe he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange for me seeing him in Halloween, the new Halloween.
Yeah,
I'm just I'm like, I know you. I mean, I know him from other movies too.
Yeah.
But like, there's just part of me now that like I've listened to his voice for like.
He's always going to be that guy in Gone in 60 Seconds for me.
Yeah, me too. Wasn't he in Remember the Titans as well? But like Gone in 60 Seconds for me. But like his voice, it was like one of those where I'm like, I've listened to this guy's voice now for probably nigh on 100 hours worth of content. Listening to him read me a book.
For sure.
Like he is Hodges to me. Like in my mind, like I picture I just picture him with like 50 pounds of extra weight as Bill Hodges. Like until the show came out,
he actually would have been a really good choice to play Bill.
Yeah, he would
for sure.
He could have done it. So cool, guys. Thank you guys for, let's see. Travis says, I haven't read With the Keyhole at all yet. I'm going to read it during my new read through of the series and was place it where it belonged chronologically for the story. Yeah. And for me, last time I read it, it was completely out of the cycle of the books too. So like I've never had it in context of the story like you're going to do, Travis. So this is a first for me. But yeah, it's not bad story wise. It's just King for me. Like he's an author and he just doesn't have the same like vocal changes and inclinations for characters and stuff like that, where I kind of get lost and like maybe just start to kind of like do the 1,000-yard stare and realize like, oh shit, I didn't just fucking catch a single word from that last 10 minutes, you know? So yeah, that's my thing. But yeah, definitely. So we will see you guys in a couple weeks, hopefully with some big news on the show. But if not, we got some top 10 lists, and
for sure,
there's always stuff happening. So
always.
We'll have stuff to talk about. So we'll see you guys next time, and long days and pleasant nights to you folks as well.
Bye, guys.